Who needs to price stuff when you can have the secondary market do you for it? Did I just totally screw up the intro? Guys, we're going to do it live one more time. Even though we're live, I'm going to clip this for the Spotify. Who needs to have MSRP when you can have the secondary market do the pricing for you? We're going to talk about why it's all crazy and pricing is dead in the... Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys.
MSR penis.
If you guys are live right now, we're having a great intro to the show. All right, one more time, guys. We'll do it live. Who needs to do pricing when you can have the secondary market do it for you? Tonight on The Ungraded Truth, we're going to talk about why MSRP is dead. Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book bad? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how can it ever get crazier? And then it always does.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the #1 collectible show in the universe. We might have just dropped to #2 based on my intro, but we're going to get back to #1 tonight because we have a big show, a lot of great topics to talk about, and I'm happy to be with my co-hosts tonight. Of course, I'm Swaggle Haas. We have Ryan, Automatic Comics. We have Manu, the 99 Newsstand, and back from Arizona, back to the show. We got the band back together, Rob, Neo Cards and Comics. Rob, it's good to see you back on the show. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, I was on a secret mission when we recorded this last time. I wasn't actually allowed to announce where I was going until the day before the conference.
Oh, Rob is a big time collectible reporter these days. You know, everything that he tweets or X's, I guess is the proper way to put it, goes viral these days because there's a lot of big stories coming out, and we're going to get into them tonight. But I want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight on Sunday, a special stream. You know, usually we do our show on Saturday, but I had a conflict, so we moved it over. So I appreciate, the guys being flexible here tonight, and thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys don't know, The Ungraded Truth is a co-stream on all of our various YouTube channels. So if you're watching on Neo's channel, if you're watching on Ryan's channel or my channel, be sure to hop over to the description and sub up the rest of the guys and give Manu a follow on Instagram, etc., etc. Also, if you guys don't know, The Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, the fastest growing channel in the universe, currently at 1,036 subscribers. 360 subscribers. Is that how that number works? I don't really know, but that's a lot of people subscribed to the channel. But if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, be sure to hop over to the link in the description and give it a sub. Also, hop over to our Spotify page. We have 25 5-star reviews. Last show, we were like, can we get to 25 5 stars? And now we're at 25 5 stars. Although I got a notice from my Spotify that said, shows like yours that get the type of listener and following or the type of viewership that your show gets have twice as many followers. And I realize I have not been asking people to follow our show as well. So if you're over there giving it a 5-star review, hop over to the follow button and give it a follow as well. So there you go, guys. We're doing great. Socials are going well. My intros are getting worse progressively as I do them. But at the same time, our show is getting better. So yeah, there you go.
We know you're human. That was a fantastic intro. It's like, it's not AI, clearly not AI. I love that. It was a charming intro.
I'm not going to lie. If I can start to do AI intros, I might start to do that.
Damn it.
All right. But we're not going to bury the lead anymore. We got to talk about how MSRP is dead. And I think it's very interesting because we have a big story in the comic book market, as we also have in the, trading card market right now, that are going to dovetail together in terms of their MSRP being dead. But the first story, of course, that we have to talk about is the absolute Batman debacle, which of course was the absolute Batman 19 Dan Quintana variant drop, otherwise known as Dropgate. If you guys happen to have watched my video earlier this week, I talked about this whole incident. I'm probably not going to do a full recap, but in case you guys are just catching up for the story, Dan Quintana, one of the biggest artists right now within the comic book market, specifically known for his covers that he's been doing on Absolute Batman, where notably one of his covers that featured Absolute Wonder Woman sold for $100,000, the original art for that piece. He did a drop for Absolute Batman number 19, which features the first appearance of Absolute Scarecrow, had the Scarecrow on it. He did a retailer variant where basically what they decided to do was drop the comic book on their website at a specific time. They only put 25 copies at the time and they charged $25. And then they decided to drop 25 more, which they upped the price after that $25 price point to $75. And then that was it. That was the amount of copies that they dropped. And then they pushed everybody over to their Whatnot stream, where then they decided to auction off their these books one at a time. And as you guys can see from some of these photos, $2,000, $1,120, and $1,000 right there. So one by one, they sold their comic book after kind of having, teased out this, drop where they only released 25 copies. Also, I should probably point out the fact that they have a print run of 2,000 copies. And this is kind of this new meta that we're in where, you can sort of price check and drop books at a certain MSRP or a certain retail value, and then you can dynamically price it to, the next retail value. And then you can, kind of cash in on the secondary market. Anyways, the people and the fans that were looking and interested in picking up this book were not happy with how this was done. The Whatnot was a total cluster. Everybody was yelling in the chat, so much so to the point that the retailer, Heavy Mental, actually had to come out with an apology post where they decided to do another version of the drop where they released 500 copies at a specific time. Apparently, this one went kind of okay for the most part, but there's still a lot of people salty about it. I'm going to kind of stop talking because we have more to unpack with the story, but I kind of want to table it there and kind of throw it to you guys if you guys got a chance to watch my video, or if you had thoughts on this Absolute Batman drop and the drop culture that currently exists within the collectible world.
So was the 2,000 number known on the initial $25 and $50 drop, or was that an after the fact thing?
I would say that it was you could argue that it was sort of known, but it was vague and certainly not led with.
Did they imply that it was way less than that, or did they not tease any number?
I don't believe that they teased any number. All they did was they were promoting the book. Hey, this is going to be a big thing. We're going to release it at this time on our website. And when it came out, only 25 copies were available. And that was really it. And so people were very confused. Bots had picked up, obviously, those 25 copies. Then the secondary market was already active. Some of the prices were selling for like $500 plus at the time immediately on eBay. So it's like you have this like FOMO propelling a current price and price action, and people just desperate to get it. And so that kind of caused the whole storm.
Yeah, little limited supply stuff. Yeah, this is the world that we live in these days.
I mean, I was going to say for you, Neil, I mean, it sounds like Tops, it feels like they learned from how they do their like limited release and then they reprice, and they weren't even repricing. People are paying it now, like in auction style. So I'm of mixed opinion on this one, just because like I generally, like I've said before, like the people buying the stuff, like we're all adults. You can buy what you want to buy. You can spend however much you want to spend. Like it's not anybody's job to protect you from overspending on some comic book that's either going to go up or go down or whatever in the future. So I have that. But the problem is, like, we generally know the comic hobby, like how people feel in the hobby about how certain things operate. And if this retailer wants to continue to be able to do successful variant covers and releases and that kind of thing, if you burn too many bridges, then people might not come back later. And so because they've got the people in there right now who are trying to like flip stuff and all that kind of thing. But it's like, if that's not always your business, if a lot of it is just making the money off of the $50 drops or the $75 drops or that kind of thing, if that's your primary business and you destroy all the good faith that your company had, then there's a problem. Now, the other side of it though, is like, you kind of see, and it's hard to say unless you're actually the person that's put in that situation. Like, I mean, if you have a 2,000 book run, like you're sitting on 2,000 of these books and they're selling in your Whatnot stream for $1,000 to $2,000 a piece. I mean, that's millions of dollars. And so it's like, that is a lot of money, and there's a lot of temptation there. And maybe you only need to burn people one time, and then you're like, all right, I'm out. And so like that could be the mentality too. I mean, my biggest issue personally was Quintana's response. I wasn't a fan. I feel like he needs a publicist if he doesn't have one. And if he has one, he needs to fire the one he has and get a better one, because that was not the statement that should have been put out there, in the two statements that should have been put out there.
Absolutely. I will bring up that what he actually said, and we can continue that conversation. But I don't know if Manu, you had anything you wanted to add before we get there.
No, I mean some of the same stuff. Like, I was reading in the chat, and someone in the chat said, if people are going to pay, this is interesting, right? Because it's so nuanced. But if people are going to pay, why shouldn't the retailers reap the reward? But even beyond the idea of why shouldn't the retailers reap the reward, there are a couple of thoughts. Like, if people are going to pay, that's just the interesting question, right? Like, it's auction style. If people are paying, like, I'm not taking any sides here. I think someone said it was distasteful, and yeah, perhaps it is distasteful. But if people are willingly paying, are the people that are upset just the people that aren't willing to pay that, and they just want the book? Like, if the price is outrageous, people are really taking a big risk spending that kind of money on something that there's 2,000 printed of just because it's signed. I didn't know it was happening. People started messaging me about it after the fact. I watched your video, Swag. And then and also Theo, shout out Rage Theo. He hit me about it and brought me up to speed. Then I watched your video and I got the full context. And then the other thought to me is like, we talk about how, I don't know if fervor is the word. I don't know what that word means, but like the fervor's back, right? What does fervor mean? So Ryan's laughing. So what's that?
I think it's excitement, but I just thought it was funny. You're like, you use the word and you're like, I don't know what that word means.
You know how sometimes like that's the word, like you've heard it said, but you're like, I don't know what the hell. That's how you learn how to speak anyway. Like, you just context, right? And so in any case, the fervor's back. Like, we see that in the market. We see there's excitement. And you made such a great point in your video where you were like, now there's just so many variants coming out. And it's like this, we're in this place where the sellers, the retailers, the manufacturers realize that buying is happening, and they will have no regard for it, no concern for what would happen once you completely abuse the buyer base and exhaust them and fuck them over time and time again, and then you have a collapse again, right? And so it's like, how fast are we going to get to the next crash where everyone that's excited right now feels shit on and then leaves for another 3 summers? Like, why do we continue to let this happen? Why not have some respect for the ecosystem, have respect for the buyer, play fair, treat nicely, whatever, right? Like, I'm not over here kumbaya, but people will get pissed off, people will become jaded, and the cycle will repeat itself. But then from the people that are paying, have we not learned anything? Why the fuck are you paying $1,500 for a signed copy of some new book? Like, really, why? And if it's because you really want it, and that's the price because people are bidding it up, like, at a certain point, you got to say, this is too much money for this thing. Like, what is this supposed to be? $100, $150? Anyway, just thoughts, And if someone wants to like piggyback off of them or challenge some of them, I'm just thinking. But then what Ryan said was funny, because I made a note here. I wanted to say, like, and if you didn't know that Dan Quintana was the hottest artist in the world, he told you a few times, right? And that's his defense to the whole thing, and that's hilarious in itself.
Well, let me, Rob, I know you want to chime in, but let me, because you did a nice little segue here. We'll talk about what Dan Quintana actually said. He actually made 2 statements on his story. I had to pull up my old video because I don't have access to it. But he said this, Heavy, did you hear everyone out right there for full transparency? Here's my take. I currently command the highest, quickest resales on the planet right now. I spoke with every top retailer today, and some agreed it's very difficult to currently place a baseline on my work. It's hot and tricky to handle. Definitely difficult for me, even though even to think about logistics, reason why I have nothing currently in my store, no time. But he was just kind of talking about that. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if that was the right thing to say. And then he followed up with this one, which I actually didn't put in my video. And shout out to Sean from Comics Elite. This is the only place that I could actually find the image because he made commentary on this. And so it's a little bit fuzzy, but I apologize for you guys from a viewer standpoint. But he also said this on a story. It's always been about the art, not the physical me, not the sales. I know it's hard for for you non-creatives to understand. All you know is boring numbers. I'm about to wear larger shades and cloaks covering entire self, strip it down to one convention show in person per year, move on to open order FOC with major publishers, only create my own book so I can just look at the art. So it's just a lot of like pretentious, I'm the biggest selling artist and you guys don't understand because you guys aren't creative. And it was just like a lot of shade being thrown. It's just like, dude, you're just throwing gasoline on the fire right now. And this is probably not the right look.
I was just going to say, go into the whole, like, should they be sold this way? Should they not be sold this way on the auction thing and stuff? I think to me, what switches it from, is this okay, is that number disclosed? Like, are they running that auction and the sale saying up front, like, there's going to be 2,000 of these, limited drop, whatever, or then you're just throwing them all on Whatnot? I think the key thing is what's the print run on this? Like, do you like for, and Topps is bad about this too, to pigeon into that, about giving us like odd sheets on pre-release. They usually hold them until release day. So you're kind of blind buying. You can't back napkin math how much of the stuff's actually made or how hard it is for certain things to hit. I think I'm fine. If a creator wants to throw their stuff up there and run it and they're selling for 1,000 a piece, as long as everyone's on the same playing field, that they know that there are 2,000 of those and everyone can make an informed decision, versus the unknown of, is there 50 of them? Is there 100 of them? Is there 50,000 of them? I think makes a big difference here.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it's not common knowledge, but you can't work with the big two in this retail capacity without making at least, I think it's 2,000 for DC and 3,000 for Marvel. These are just like numbers that every retailer knows. That doesn't mean, to your point, that every consumer would know that, but that's typical for a print run. So the number would be out there. But yes, it is part of the problem that there was no like communication or transparency. I mean, there's no communication in general about like how the drop was going to be released, how many there were going to be dropped, that it was going to come over to the stream. And that was a lot of the uproar. But I don't want to go maybe too far down this role, but we're going to talk about this when we get to like the Topps Chrome football story. But what's crazy to me about it is like, we're such in this gray area where like Dan Quintana and this retailer are like working as a publisher and they're coming out with this product, but yet they are $1 start whatnotting it. Like, that just makes no sense to me. Like, because yeah, sure, like maybe the secondary market is going to do what it's going to do, and maybe you're like leaving money on the table, but like, I don't know, like when Samsung comes out with a new TV, they don't $1 start like bidding at Best Buy. Like, that just seems like
it's consumer
actually, you know what? You might be right. Maybe it is coming. Maybe
that is another $1 billion idea just developed now. We're doing doing $1 starts on new tech.
Yeah, but it's so clearly consumer unfriendly, and so I just don't understand this kind of world and habit that all these companies are forming. Like, if this is going to be the case, and then if it stands to reason and begs the question, okay, like, are all artists going to start to do this like in the future? Because maybe they should.
On an artist / creative versus like to use your Samsung example, like if an artist wants to sell their artwork that way, I don't know that I have a problem with that. Once again, I think it just comes down to the clarification of like what we're actually doing here. Like, if you want to sell that way, that's fine, but be transparent about the numbers of quantity available. Like, don't try to FOMO the price up by making it seem like it's more limited than it is. Like, I'm never going to shit on a creative for selling their stuff what a fair and open market is willing to pay on a quote unquote limited release item, but just be straightforward with like what's going on with it.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree with that. Like, I don't care what people pay on Whatnot for this stuff. Like, I know there's those like Clayman covers, like that go, like people spend $1,000, $500, whatever, like on Whatnot for that stuff too. And I don't understand it. I don't really care. I just know that people spend that money and they hopefully understand that there's like a 99% chance it's going to be worth a lot less than that in the future. And as long as they're okay with that, who cares? Like I said, it's they're adults. They can spend their money however they want. I mean, I still think that a lot of you know, and maybe I'm jaded. I don't know. But I think a lot of the people that are, and it's not everybody. I'm sure some people don't, you know, some people actually want the book, but most people that get upset probably are upset that they couldn't flip it for $700 on eBay. You know, like how many of those people, if they got it for $25, didn't like immediately turn them on eBay? I mean, I doubt it was too many.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that it is a lot of flippers that are participating in it, but I also wonder, like, and shout out to Brian from Beyond Wednesdays, because he talked about this on his show and made a really interesting point where he said that of all of the success that Absolute Batman has had, one of the positive things is that it's been like wonderful PR for like the entire run of Absolute Batman. And this is kind of like that first very negative, like kind of widespread topic that has been related to Absolute Batman, to the point where I had a lot of creators who work on Absolute Batman that like kind of DM'd and reached out to me because they like watched my video about it. And it was interesting because it's like, I think for them, they even like were like, hey, what's going on here with this? And they needed to like kind of know why fans were so upset about it. And I saw a few Reddit threads, and granted it's anecdotal, but to your point, Ryan, like there were some people in those Reddit threads that were seemingly coming off as like, hey, I'm just like a fan and I just wanted to own this comic book, and like this was really off-putting. And so maybe this went beyond just those of the kind of flipper variety, but maybe not. I don't know. But speaking of some of these retail prices, just to put a finer point on it, I mean, when this initially happened, the drop, these comics were selling around the $450, $500 range or so. Now, kind of if I scroll up to the most recent sales, still getting $220, $300. I mean, maybe these are like best offers accepted, but somewhere in the $200 price point. An auction here ending for $371. So kind of crazy. I mean, they did do a follow-up Whatnot stream where they did release, they said 500 copies, but it still makes you realize that there's presumably 1,500 more copies that they're still in possession of. And these things sell for $200 a pop still on eBay. And it's kind of crazy because like if you're somebody who wants this book, I mean, there's just, like you said, Ryan, there's like going to be so many copies out there, and like what are the chances that this thing can really sustain $200 moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, probably won't. Probably won't, but
it's no dork,
That's true.
The problem. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
It is no dork.
I mean,
it is no dork.
To your guys' point about the flippers getting pissed off, like we are seeing this with the top stuff that we've been hitting at, where like people are pissed at shops right now because they're selling hobby boxes of Topps Chrome Football for, I don't know, let's just keep the math simple, $1,000 when Topps was selling them for $400, but they're selling all day on eBay for $1,000. So I don't know why any LCS, whether this was a comic or a card, if something is openly selling on the secondary market for $1,000, why would you put it on your shelf for $500 just so someone else can walk out the door and make $500?
Well, I mean, I watch a Pokemon channel where like it's a guy who runs a card shop, and he talks about that and kind of the struggle you have with that, because you get like people get pissed, like they get pissed when you are selling it above like whatever they deem MSRP to be. And
Pokemon's like 165 a box, 170 a box or whatever. But that's why a lot of like for both Pokemon, One Piece, and sports cards, one of the things that they're doing now is with cutting the wrappers. Like, okay, we'll give you a discounted price, but we're cutting the wrapper because that eliminates the flipper's ability to go sell it on eBay, because no one's going to buy a box of cards with a wrapper cut on it.
But I guess that's kind of like, the bigger point of the topic, and just double clicking on that. Like, again, it's only collectibles that this is happening, where like there's this kind of dynamic pricing. I mean, I suppose there's dynamic pricing in things like, your apps like Uber and DoorDash and stuff. And let's not go down that rabbit hole.
I just bought tickets for WWE a few weeks ago, and there's dynamic pricing on that now.
Yeah, but isn't that something that's like, I mean, are consumers going to stand for this? Like, it is just, are people just going to have to take it? Because we're feeling so much negativity within the collectible world about this, to your point, Ryan, where it's like people get so mad when you price it. And it's also because it's like you, the retailer, are already making a margin. You're buying it at wholesale. Like, you like, it's not my fault if you don't run your numbers properly, where it's like you can't already be very profitable and having a very fruitful
Well,
business.
that's
Like, why do
that's
you
the
need?
question though. Like that is often
Mhm.
the issue, is that a lot of people assume they are getting it at wholesale, but like a lot of times they aren't. I mean, like at least like for the like that Pokemon shop that I watched, like just to have product, he was having to buy on the secondary market to be able to put it on his shelf. And so he has to charge that higher price because he's paying that higher price to get it. And then like with at least like Alpha Investments, I think he was talking about how like distributors will up what they charge. Like they maybe for the first drop you get it at wholesale, but for any reprints, they up the price, And so it's not always as straightforward as like what the suggested retail price is, because a lot of times even the shops can't get it for that. Now for the initial drop, I get it. I feel like, yeah, you're making your money. You should just let it go the way it goes, but after that, I think there's too much gray area on what they're actually paying to really be very critical of them, at least in my opinion.
And on that note, this is not tied to this book, but in terms of distributors, prior to Topps, I only know from the Marvel world, I wasn't engaging with sports cards, but prior to Topps having the Marvel license, Upper Deck had only like 3 or 4 distributors that were responsible for moving product around the United States, and people were at their mercy, and they would do the same thing where they would put an unannounced amount, like you wouldn't know how many, up for sale at a certain price. It would inevitably sell out. You don't know if 10 cases sold or 100 cases. And then the next week it would be at a higher price. And if that would sell out, then the next day the pre-orders or whatever would be at an even higher price. And these are all pre-orders and stuff. And then, of course, the retail price is set by what people were willing to pay during the pre-orders. So once you even get to an LCS, if they have the product, it's going to be at or higher than what the elevated third or fourth, increase in price was. I forgot what that's called. I don't know if that's called I don't know what that's called. But that's the sort of pricing that they used to do. And that's carried over into, but we were complaining about that or unhappy about that or uneasy about that then. And collectors still bought up everything and the businesses continue to do it. Because like when you said, like, are they going to stand for that? I mean, a lot of collectors don't stand for anything, they'll just pay. I don't know why, they just do. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess, they're going to just have to take it, and companies are going to continue to do it because companies are making billions of dollars by taking up some of that secondary market value. This is a article out of the New York Times, and kind of transitioning here to our next topic. CEO Michael Rubin details Fanatics' growth while criticism mounts. I'm just going to kind of hop over to some of Rob's coverage of this, but suffice to say, Fanatics is making over $4 billion by doing secondary or doing collectible trading cards. That's just a big driving growth part of their business, even though, like we already kind of discussed, people are criticizing a lot of like the practices that they've had. And that kind of connects to this new product drop, which was the Topps Chrome 2025 football pack that they recently came out with. And Rob, I think I'm going to kind of kick it over to you to kind of talk about this story. But a lot of people kind of upset about this drop and this release and how expensive it's quickly become on the secondary market. We're going to show coverage of other people making comments, like Gary Vee at the Arizona conference, and celebrity actor Jeff Garlin, kind of came out with a video talking about, how crazy these prices are. But maybe you can kind of tie it all together for me, talk about this story, and kind of carry it off of our MSRP being dead topic overall.
Yeah, so this Topps' first licensed football release in like 10 plus years. A lot of hype on this one. Not the greatest rookie class in the world, but that almost doesn't matter when the marketing machine is purring along. These initially went up. We'll just stick with hobby boxes to keep things simple. They went up for $350 a box on the initial pre-sale about 6 weeks ago. Instantly sold out, like gone, botted, the whole 9 yards. Fast forward, Topps bumped them up to $400 a box. Did one of their EQL drops for it. Same thing. Very few people actually hit. Release day rolls around. Actually, even before release day rolls around, eBay and the secondary market price has already driven it all the way up to $900 to $1,200 a box. You could blame breakers, you could blame shops, you could blame tops. Everyone probably has their hand in the cookie jar on this one, but regardless, secondary market drove it to 1,200 very quickly. It's come down a little bit over the last couple days. I think right now they're sitting between 900 and 1,000 a box. But yeah, people are not happy because of they just feel like they're basically been priced out. And the problem is that there are people willing to pay, whether that's breakers or whether that's people buying into the breaks or people that just want to light money on fire. Opening $1,000 box of cards is yet to be determined, but someone else is willing to pay that price, and it's taking the pricing there, and a lot of people can't afford that, and a lot of people are not happy about that.
When I ask, like, what is the understanding when they have a product that comes out and they're doing this initial drop release or however they do it? Like, is there always a, hey, we're releasing, I don't know what the numbers are, 1,000 boxes here, or do they disclose that? So you have no idea. And then are they just continuing to print however many until they just decide, like, hey, it doesn't sell anymore? Like,
no, it's not like Pokemon, where Pokemon can continuously reprint for up to 3 to 5 years after release, because sports have serial numbered hits and autographs in them, and there are odds associated with that. So whatever their print run is off the get, that's the print run. Like, they knew 6 weeks ago when the pre-sale went up exactly how many hobby and jumbo boxes and how many retail boxes. Like, that's all mapped out well ahead of time. Like, they know exactly, and you cannot go back and reprint more. That's just not how it works in sports. It's a difference between sports and TCG. Like, you can't go back in and reprint in the modern era. Maybe back in the 80s and 90s they pulled some shenanigans. There's been rumors about the 89 Upper Deck Griffey for years, but in the modern era, you can't just print to demand like you can a TCG product. So they release some up front, usually a very small amount. That starts building the FOMO machine, direct to consumer. Then they'll release a little bit more on release day, but a large majority of it goes to, they have 2 direct lines because Topps basically eliminated distributors. That was one of the things that Ruben saw as a profit center of, like, why are, Panini was sending the boxes to the distributors would sell it to the shops, they would hold product back, and then they would mark it up like we were talking about earlier for a wave 2 pricing, and the distributor would make that profit. And Ruben looked and was like, you guys are stupid, you guys should be making that money on your own. And when they bought Topps and got the licenses, that was the first thing that they did, was cut those guys out. So now Topps does the same thing. They release some on wave 1. They have 2 distribution channels. They have direct for shops, and then there is a separate direct for breakers. There's 2 different allocation programs, and then a certain amount of product goes that way. They do a wave 1 that is at usually a very reasonable price that they could usually make a pretty good margin on, not always, but most of the time. And then wave 2 or subsequent waves are usually slightly below whatever current market price is.
This is interesting. If I can have a second here with Eggplant's comment. Shout out Eggplant. He says, and I'll tie it into what I'm thinking. He says, when demand for milk goes up and you can't unreasonably jack up the price, that's called price gouging. But collectibles is the Wild Wild West with no regulations. Aside from being the Wild Wild West with no regulations, it's not an essential, right? If someone needs something essential, you jack up the price, you're a terrible fucking person. This is a piece of art, a comic book with a signature, you jack up the price, someone pays it. Like, I mean, didn't you just do what you were supposed to do, essentially?
But collectors will still call you a terrible person.
But we can't argue the fact that I get it. It's not a survival thing. It's like, turn off what not, walk away.
Who drinks milk these days?
That's a good question. Well, I have lattes.
So I do cereal, and I put milk on my cereal.
Yeah, but who has a glass of milk? You ever just have a glass of milk? Like, wake up, oh, milk doesn't.
I have a glass of chocolate milk. Like, I have Hershey's syrup, and I'll put in there.
Yeah, but like,
chocolate milk is okay.
All right, chocolate milk is acceptable. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's because, like, there was a comment a while back where someone said, I think it's okay to care about others being taken advantage of.
Agree.
And it's like, I agree, but in the collectible space, like, I don't know if I see it as being taken advantage of. Like, feel like you should know better. Like, if you're bidding on this stuff, you're spending $1,000. Like if you could go on eBay, like, I'm just going back to the thing, like, you go on eBay and see what those things were selling for. And you could see it wasn't even $1,000, and you're bidding that on this whatnot stream. Like, you're paying what you're paying. Like, you're getting excited by the hype of the show and whatever. Yeah. I don't have a ton of sympathy for overpaying for a collectible. Like there's
No.
enough information out there that you can make educated decisions on this stuff. And
You know, yeah, and Pim, OJ says here, how are they being taken advantage of? That's a good question. Like, how is it someone being taken advantage? I'm not taking sides, but it's a good question. Like, how is it taking advantage of someone? It's their choice.
You know what the interesting thing is here? And there's like two narratives that are going to have to figure each other out in order to like, you know, when all the fallout of like whatnot lawsuits and gambling and all this stuff, you know, rears its head eventually. But I think a lot of people just have problems with the fact that like, hey, when you make a trading card product that's like tops football and you're putting it out, you're just putting out a product. Like, there's no like you shouldn't have as a business any consciousness of like collectability or secondary market or like these things coming out. It's like you just made cards that are this product that you're putting out. Just like if I made a TV, I'm putting out this TV that I'm putting out. But like obviously there's the secondary market value that they care about. There's the idea that like, hey, we're putting in these chase cards that are going to like be profitable, that are going people are going to make money by flipping this stuff, or it's going to go higher. And then it's kind of going into this like, but then now you're kind of scratching the gambling side of it and you're admitting that, but then all these companies are using the loophole of like, no, we're just putting out a product. You know, we say that we have X cards and X number of packs, and this is just what we're putting out. So it's like they're having their cake and they're eating it too. Does that make sense? What I'm kind of getting at?
No, yeah, and an interesting thing there is, and I think this connects with what you're saying, and this is so. If the company is just putting out product and not paying attention to the secondary market, like that would be, I guess, quote unquote, an ideal scenario, right? I think for a time Nike was doing that. They weren't worried about the secondary market. They were just releasing shoes. Shoes would sell out, prices would slowly go up, yada yada. But you know, they weren't releasing shoes at $1,500 a pair. Now, so the secondary market's like, yes, that's what you guys are supposed to be doing. Just put out the product. We're the secondary market. Don't worry about it. Because of us, your product sells out, right? And when the companies will use like what's the Wizard of the Coast? What's the company that does Magic the Gathering? So Magic the Gathering had a great secondary market, and then Magic the Gathering or Wizards of the Coast started printing a bunch of products. So then the secondary market says, you're supposed to pay attention to us, you're supposed to care about us, you're killing the secondary market. So on one hand, don't worry about us, just keep putting out product, right? You're putting out too much product, you're fucking over the secondary market. It's like, you know, the companies want the cake and eat it too, but the secondary market wants their cake and eat it too. Both the people, how are you going to satisfy both
Well,
conversations?
Manu, you have to be in the exact, very, very specific, paying attention, just not paying attention too much line.
Yeah.
That's what everybody wants.
Well, I mean, that's where I exist, you know. No, I'm just but
No, but it is that is an interesting point. And yeah, I don't know how you do it, but you know, it reminded me when we were talking about how we did a story where Pops was dying like a few shows ago.
yeah,
And one of the biggest things that Pops messed up is that they just didn't pay enough attention to the secondary market and they overprinted. And like when you don't take those things into mind, then you end up ruining the golden goose. And I do sort of wonder, like, if you're not leaving meat on the bone for all the flippers out there, and I realize like the flippers get, you know, a negative connotation, but I kind of think they're like important. Like I kind of think like if you're starting to suck out that secondary market value and you're just going, like you said, Rob, straight to consumer, skipping the retailer, you know, not allowing people to like get the new product at a good decent price to have some meat on the bone to flip, eventually people are going to just go away from the whole thing. But
I mean, there was a comment out there was a comment somewhere in the chat where someone had said that, you know, they feel like, you know, flippers and some of this kind of stuff are actually one of the things that's really helping drive the, you know, the comic market, you know, and like drive interest. And so like, yeah, it serves a purpose, you know, like, and it's the same argument where I don't really like it when, I can't say I don't like it. I disagree with the sentiment that, oh, you know, comic prices going down is great. It means more people can afford it. It's like, no, comic prices going down is bad because it means there's reduced interest. You want at least stability or increase, because if you don't, then it means less and less people are interested in your hobby and your hobby is going away. And so like, I don't really agree with like prices going down is necessarily a good thing. But obviously, like some of the stuff, there's extremes. You know, we have like, you know, a $300 box now going for $1,600 or whatever it is, over the course of or a very short period of time is it feels wild.
Rob, you also made this post right here where you showed the retail box versus the hobby plus retail difference in what kind of items you can pull from it. I'm curious about this because in Magic the Gathering, they do this, where they have the collector booster box has like the big chase cards, and then you have the play booster, which is just the cards to play with. I don't know if that is something that has never really happened within like specifically sports trading cards, but I'm assuming that you posted that and there was conversation around it and people were upset about that. Is that my understanding here?
Very common practice in sports cards that hobby and jumbo, or usually hobby shop or hobby exclusive products, have different chases than the retail equivalents. This is completely normal. There was just like 3 of the biggest cards that they were really hyping up, which were on that first page, the first Instagram page that I had up, not that second one that you showed. Like there was like big pump on those. All 3 of those were hobby exclusive products. Yeah, those. So people were pissed that, oh, you've been talking these up on how great these cards are, and they're gatekeeped behind super expensive boxes. But that's extremely common practice. That's been like that in sports cards for a long time, that certain rare chase cards are held back for the more expensive boxes. So that's nothing new. That's just people wanting to complain.
Gotcha. Manu, were you going to say something?
Collectors never just want to complain. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's crazy talk.
I was going to say something, but it was kind of half baked, and I didn't spit it out right away. I sort of thought about it, but I'll just put it out there anyway. About this thing about, who's getting taken advantage of. And then if you want to be like super sensitive about it, which, sometimes that's how I think about things, but the companies are, when you're doing this like escalated price system, and that there's like an audience out there that is emotional about their buying, right? Like collectors, like we said, it's not an essential thing, it's an emotional thing. For some people it's an investment vehicle, to an extent, but for some people it's a community that they want to be a part of, right? So you are taking advantage of the knowledge that you have, that there is a community of folks out there that feel like they belong to something. And in order to continue to feel like they belong to something and have that camaraderie, they have to pay to play. And if you increase the price, you're just making it more difficult for them to have that community, for them to have that engagement. Now, again, I'm not justifying an adult's actions. Accountability is accountability. Whether you do it as an emotional blanket or not, it's still your responsibility how to spend and when to spend your money. But maybe perhaps that's a spin on the advantage being taken. Maybe like, is there a moral obligation for a company to make something available to someone at a fair price that makes them happy? No, I don't think that there is. But as a human being, perhaps you can look at it from that perspective and say that's a little screwed up, right? But business is business. So that was the thought.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit more about Topps, MSRP, and all of the gambling that the trading card market has turned into. But before we get there, we got to do a shout out to the sponsor of our show, Heritage Auctions. Guys, I don't have to introduce Heritage Auctions to you, but in case you don't know who they are, Heritage Auctions is one of the premier auction houses in the world. They have amazing auctions every single week. If you go down to the link in the description, click on the Heritage Auctions thing, you can be navigated to this page. You can browse our latest auctions and discover rare comics and artwork. You click on that button, you can see all kinds of stuff that they got going on. They have weekly auctions that are every Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. They do art here. They do trading cards for you trading card fans. They do Star Wars toys and things of that nature. But one of the things that I always love to do is to show the guys, these comics that always roll around every Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday on their weekly auctions. And I have a couple that I pulled up here that are finishing tomorrow, actually. So you have 23 hours and 27 minutes left to decide if you want to get in on this. But Ryan, I was looking at this one here and I see a Batman 171 first Silver Age appearance of the Riddler. Last show, we talked about the first real Golden Age appearance of the Riddler in a nice grade, 8.5 for a 1965 book. And then we have the first Silver Age Two-Face or Scarecrow right here. Talk about Dan Quintana Scarecrow cover. Actually right now, based on the fact that this is at $2,000, that's less than Dan Quintana prices.
Wow.
So you get a Batman 181 first Silver Age Scarecrow in a CGC 9.4 compared to a first Riddler. What do you got here? I think that these are going to end up similar prices. What do you think?
I mean, just like personal preference, I like the Riddler more. I like because neither of them are first appearances overall. You know, they're both Silver Age, so you can kind of, I feel like you just pick and choose which cover you like the most. And for me, I like the pink cover. I mean, that's why it's front and center up on my top shelf.
Yeah, it is right behind you.
So yeah, I'm going for the Batman 171.
Pump it.
Okay. I like that. I would track that, but I think it's going to log me out here, so I'm not going to do that. But what about this here, right? We got some, some lots. Sometimes you can come in here, you can pick up a bunch of, secret goodies. I got 4 in a row. We got a Blackhawk group of 52. We got a Captain Marvel group of 38. We got a Challengers Unknown group of 18 books right here. And we got a Charlton, Silver Age, Nurse, and Romance comics. We don't speak enough about romance comics, but which kind of one of these groups would you be most interested in kind of finding out what's in there?
I mean, so it would kind of depend on what the condition is of them. But if I'm looking at those, it depends what your purpose is for buying. If you're looking at for books to kind of like buy some lots to sell, which I know a lot of people do use this for that. They'll get lots and they'll use it on Whatnot or that kind of thing. But I'd probably go with the Captain Marvel just because you're going to just generally do better with the Marvel books. There's just more demand. But if depending on the grade, potentially, I'd be going for the Strange or the Challengers of the Unknown. And I think it was like Strange Adventures group, because if it's a big enough lot and there's maybe some hidden, gems in there, maybe one that's graded a little better than another, there can be some pretty valuable books once those start getting up into some higher grades. So that's one of the, I'd say like one of the little tips for buying the lots on Heritage. If you see that it has a large grouping like that first one, the Blackhawk has 52, take a look at what's actually in there, because while they often will put the bigger keys or, more recognizable books in that set of 3 pictures, not always. I've seen some pretty big stuff hidden in the descriptions. So you do also have to take a look.
Absolutely. Click into that lot, you go down here, you can see all the numbers that are actually in it. And so you never know if there's a secret book hiding in there. But Rob, hopping over to Tuesday here, you got one day to make your choices. I got a couple of books for you. We got an ASM 129 low grade 2.0 first Punisher. The Daredevil show is out right now. Frank Miller was in it. He's gonna be showing up soon. You got a ASM 238 first Hobgoblin in a 9.6, tattoos included, and you have an ASM 300 7.5. Maybe a little lower grade, but of course it's the first full Venom classic McFarlane cover. All these books kind of around the same price. Which one are you going with here?
I go with 238 just because of the grade of it. I don't know that I want the 129 in that low of a grade, and then same with the ASM 300. I mean, if you don't own an ASM 300 and you just want one, go with that one. But I out of those 3, I'm going with the 238, which I actually do own that book in a 9.6.
Nice.
All right. Well, you never know. You can get a crack and press candidate. Who knows? All right, Manu, I got one for you. I'm going to go all the way down here. We got to go to. Actually, I got this right here. I had it already pulled up. We got another lot group here. We got a Spawn related group of 32.
Okay.
Against your other favorite Spider-Man related group of 16. So we have 2 lots here. We got some Spider related things versus a Spawn, which has obviously some very Todd McFarlane-y things on the cover. I can also throw in this as a curveball here, some later Spider-Man related things, 67.
67 in that lot of the more recent Venom related stuff, kind of the symbiote lot there. And we're not jumping into the description at all, right? We're just basing it off of the 3 that they show and the number of books.
It's not that serious, Manu. I mean, we could just kind of do a little game here.
He needs to know.
Mystery box time. Mystery box.
So I'm skipping on the Spider-Man lot. I'm just pretending it's all the same price. I'm skipping on the Spider-Man lot. I like that you threw in the curveball of the 67 book lot, but I'm probably going with the Spawns are all directs. I'm just going to have fun with that 67 book lot and treat it like a mystery pack and see what's in there. All
right. Well, shout out to the mystery box. Survey says Spider-Man from the 90s. You got a bunch of them there. You got Spider-Man 2099, a bunch of things. Spectacular Spider-Man, Carnage, Mind Bombs, Spider-Man Maximum Clonage, Venom Enemy, and Venom Knights of Vengeance #1. So who knows? A lot of good books in there. Maybe you get some kind of crazy newsstand secret variants and things of that nature. I mean, you never really know, right?
A
So
whole
there you
lot
guys
of
have it.
nostalgia, really near and dear
Oh,
to me in that lot.
a whole lot of nostalgia. Well, be sure to head on over to the link in the description, guys. Heritage Auctions. Give yourself a chance to win some of those awesome books. You mean there's great auctions every single Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, weekly auctions where you can find all kinds of great books. So head on over there. Link in the description. I want to say thanks to Heritage for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back into our topic here today. Now, one thing that was really interesting related to the Topps story is that Gary Vee had been in attendance at the Topps conference, which, of course, Rob, like we said at the beginning of the show, you were there in attendance. And he gave a speech where he actually kind of said that he feels like the card hobby and the card industry is leaning way too much into the gambling aspect of collectibles. Similarly, Jeff Garland, who famously from Curb Your Enthusiasm and other shows, he's actually somebody that goes to my local LCS, so I've seen him a few times in shops, and he's mentioned in this video that he attends Burbank Sports Cards a lot, which is kind of close to where I am. Also talked about his sort of distaste for where the hobby is going in terms of it being kind of a gambling kind of centric attitude of how the companies are being run. But I don't know, kind of going back to death of MSRP and some of the things that we were talking about earlier, but what do you guys think about Gary Vee and some other notable figures kind of coming out and saying that it's all gambling?
It's a wild time when Gary Vee is the level-headed / logical one on a stage with a microphone. That was not my that was my biggest surprise coming out of the Topps conference, was that Gary was the one speaking the most sense by far. But I mean, I think he's right. Like, if you actually want to build a sustainable base, and you mentioned Burbank Cards, Rob Barris at Burbank talks about this as well. Like, specifically in cards, you can't have your primary customer base basically just get punched in the face left, right, and center, opening these super expensive boxes and getting no real value out of it. And the gambling aspects of the hobby have kind of driven the prices up and driven the FOMO up, and have people basically kind of getting in for the wrong reasons to some degree, that you're not going to build a sustainable audience with that. And Gary said, we're in the hot, we are in a very hot market right now, but at some point winter will come. Like, nothing stays hot forever. We have seen this time and time again over the decades, in the short term and the long term, that at some point in time the collectible market will cool down. I know cards in general are running a little hotter than comic books right now, but cards right now are extremely hot. And it's just, right now, easy to make money. You really don't have to do a whole lot in the card space to be successful. But are you building a customer base and a business that's going to be sustainable when things cool off? Was his kind of like big pitch there he was on a little group panel with a few other folks.
I mean, I think it'll have to be breaking. Does it, like, for whatever reason, that loses its popularity, because that, I mean, I know repacks is a big part of this too, but I feel like breaking for like sealed product, though, when you're talking about sealed product, that is what is driving all the value right now, because that group can get so much money for sealed, like they can extract so much money out of a sealed product that naturally that's what the value of that product is going to go up to. Is like, I mean, you could just sell your whatever you have to breakers. I mean, there was one point when I was reached out to about some, sealed Pokemon cards, and if I wanted to buy them, and then they were going to be potentially sold to a breaker, and like, that's how those were going to move, and it's like, that's where that value is right now. And I mean, maybe at some point it's people just decide that the excitement of just the bidding and the potential of getting, like the GGs and the comments and that kind of stuff isn't enough after they've just lost over and over and over again. Like, maybe, but it's hard to see. Like, I'm sure it's going to happen. Like, I'm sure at some point it's going to happen. It's hard to see when that is right now, though, just with the fact that, I mean, gambling is it's been around forever. Like, what's going to cause people to not want to gamble? It's like, at what point will that happen? And I don't see the end game for it. I'm sure it's out there. I can't predict what it might be that's going to cause that interest to die down.
The interest could remain, but maybe the price points don't. Like if if there's world events or whatever, the economy gets bad or whatever, people are still going to want to scratch that itch, but they're not going to want to do it at $1,000 a pull. They're going to want to do it at $100 a pull. It's all relative. So like the interest in gambling could remain the same, but the willingness of how much people are willing to gamble could lessen. So you could technically kind of have both sides of the sword on that one.
Yeah.
But if you could clarify for me just really quickly, like Gary simply, what did he exactly say? He just said this is all kind of fueled on gambling, and like what was
just he just basically doesn't like that the current state of the card world is over reliant on gambling.
Okay,
was the gist of the statement.
okay.
Not saying that, like,
yeah, and that's my point is like that is
gambling, just that the pendulum has swung.
Overwhelmingly,
the nature of it is always that there's a little bit of gambling in there, but the what I took from it was that pendulum has swung too far that direction.
And I think that's an obvious observation. And Gary, I like Gary a lot. Like, he inspires me in many ways, right? I'm a fan of his, and I think if I understand him correctly, like his currency is his reputation. His reputation is based on, he always says this, like being historically right. And that's a really obvious thing to say. Like, that's not a hot take. We've all said it. Everyone knows it. So it's not controversial for him to say that. It is interesting. He might be alienating.
I think it was controversial where he said
that. That's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say. It's not controversial in itself, but it might be in relationship to, where he said it or who some of his friends are, or who might have been like, oh, Gary, why are you saying that? And someone in the chat, in one of the chats said, something about Gary V's products as well. And listen, interestingly enough, like I just had a conversation with Gary V's team about some of his products, and they did send me some stuff. And, these are blind bags. Gary realizes these are blind bags. Like, I don't know which books are in here. That's what fuels people's desire to get these, right? I've never had a blind bag for a comic book. I've never opened one. I had a conversation with Gary's team, and they were like, we'll send you some stuff, maybe you like it, type of thing, right? And I was like, yeah, please. And so Gary's not unfamiliar with the idea of a blind bag in gambling. He's part of that economy, that ecosystem. He sells into it. I think it's reasonable what he said. It's like overwhelmingly in that direction. But the question then is, can you have that opinion and also make a product that's based on the hit rate or, pulling something unknowingly? Because buying one of these, even though they're inexpensive to purchase, you are still buying the rush of hoping you get the item. And I haven't opened anything. I don't know what's in there. But thank you, Zachary, for those. And thank you, Gary, for getting in touch. I appreciate it. But can you be of both minds or participate in the business and have that really obvious opinion?
I mean,
well, I think
yes.
you're
because
I mean, I think what sometimes just because he could say something, or just because he says something like, hey, it's relying too much on gambling, that's not him admitting that, oh, and therefore I'm not going to do it. It's just him saying, like, this is where things are going. It's like the realpolitik, style of, kind of talking, which is something I actually respect. Like, it's like, in a lot of the times when we make our videos, we might say sort of unpopular things because we're just saying like, hey, this is just exactly what it is. And people don't want to hear it. And I think he's kind of maybe saying that as well. I mean, I don't know. I didn't, maybe the full context of what he said. He was offering a solution, although the problem with the statement overall is that, like, yes, it is relying too much on that, but like, I don't know if there is a solution like currently present that is going to get people to move away from this model of gambling that is clearly so fruitful. Because, like, what's really the alternative? Like, you got to like bring the love of collecting back into the hobby to where there's just people who want to own the sets, like the cards. Like, the issue with that is that, and we're going to talk about the GameStop power packs in a second. When I did my video about that, the issue with that is that you have like the social media engine that is like propelling this whole thing, and showing off I completed the set is just not as interesting as like I lost $1,000 on a break or I got the $10,000 chase card.
Right. The bigger thing here is not that companies are inspiring people. Well, no, listen, they are as well. They're playing into the fact that people like to gamble, but it's never going to go away because it's human nature, right? Like sex, drugs, gambling, right? Like the dream of hitting it big, and then sex and drugs you could just call the dream of hitting it in different contexts. So it's all the same dream. They're never going away, right? Like that's just what a lot of people are fueled by. That the fantasy of all of those things coming to life for them, right? Or with in any way. I won't touch too deeply on that, but so it's never going to go away because it's the human nature to have that wish of hitting it big. The lotto's always going to be around, scratch offs are always going to be around, and companies are just feeding human nature. So the only way that change would happen is if psychology on a mass level changes. That's not going to fucking
Or
happen.
or regulation comes in.
Oh, okay.
Re-
Right.
like
Right.
real
Right.
regulation that
Yeah.
clearly turns a blind eye to all of this, and that's really going back to like the whatnot
Yeah.
lawsuit. Really, it's just like it's until those things are actually put in place and there's mechanisms to like push people away from certain incentives, like it's going to continue, like you say. But maybe eventually a regulation has to come in play, and as big as things are getting, going back to like Fanatics making billions of dollars, like maybe this is actually starting to get big enough where there will be, say, politicians that take notice. Now, it still probably needs like some kind of like black swan event that is really egregious. I don't want to put anything like negative out there, but like imagine like some kind of thing that is a story that gets so big, some politician hears it, and then it's like, yes, now we really need to crack down on this thing. But I don't know what that would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I still don't really understand how regulation, unless it was just like you can't have packs of cards with random, hits in them anymore, like how that would stop the secondary market. Like I feel like
it would undercut the support systems that are propping up the prices. So if all of a sudden breakers could only sell cards certain ways, certain break styles, like there's a lot of FOMO inducing things that they do just in the way that they even fill a break. And if all of a sudden that went away, that would hurt prices probably to a degree. If they change the way breaking works, if they change the way repacks work, you're not going to end it, but all of a sudden maybe the liquidity isn't as fast anymore. Maybe things aren't selling for as much anymore. So you don't completely solve the riddle, but you undercut enough of the pillars that are holding it up that it pulls it down a couple of levels.
Yeah. Well, imagine this, Ryan. What if some state or federal regulator came in and just said, you can't do chase cards anymore.
That's what I said. Maybe you can't have chase cards.
Trading cards. Yeah, you can come out with a trading card set. You want to do the Topps football set? Cool. Yeah, great. But there's no hollows. There's no chase. There's no one-of-one auto patch, jersey patch in there, because clearly you know what you're doing when you put those cards in there.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I said, and we said this before, like we've all said that this, well, I don't know if everybody agrees, but I think we've all said that it is pretty clear it's just gambling. It's like, it's just different. It's maybe not as clear cut, but it's come way more clear cut lately, with like because it used to be, it's like, like I said, like when I was a kid, I'd buy basketball cards and I was just always looking for Jordans. Like that's all I really ever cared about. Now it's just gotten to the extreme where there's, like a special Jordan or whatever, that would have been in there. And now that's what everybody's hunting for. And I mean, just like Jeff Garland, was that his post was about the fact that the hobby box that he has is still worth as much as it is because there's still one of the big chase cards that's missing, so people are like, it's in one of these sealed boxes, or maybe somebody's found it and they haven't told anyone. Who knows? That could be the case too. But yeah, I don't know, like somebody in the comment had said, how do we fix this? And I think regulation is probably the most obvious one. The other one would be, like, at least for Pokemon, it's increasing print capacity, which they're going to be doing. Like they have that huge facility that they're putting in, because Pokemon, they do seem to just want to make their margin. That's really what you seem like you get with Pokemon. It's like they print their cards, they put them out there. Secondary market does what it does. They're happy making their margin until maybe they aren't. But all the other ones, like the sports cards and everything, because they have these, like was said, like these serialized cards and these special things, like it makes it harder for them to really print themselves out of it. And why would they want to? Like they're making so much money right now in the model that they have. Why would they want to change what they're doing? That's why I think Pokemon, the only reason they would want to fix it is because they just want to keep making their margin. And the more cards they have the capacity to print, they just make more money. It just becomes a multiplier.
And I think on the regulation point, I don't know that regulation would come at Topps or the manufacturers. I think it would come more at the Whatnots and the Fanatics Live, and how I don't think it would come at the product. It would come at how the product is sold. I think is how, if regulation comes, I think that's the way that we would see it. Like, I don't think they're going to get in there and tell Topps or whoever, Pokemon, doesn't make a difference, that they have to sell or structure products certain ways. That's already kind of been gone through the legal ringer before, and they have their bases covered there. I think it's more going to be around how the products are sold and distributed than on the actual products themselves, if that makes sense.
Well, speaking of how products are sold in gambling, this week we had the official release of the GameStop Power Packs. Guys, GameStop Power Packs are now live at your local retailer store or also online. You can give yourself a chance to open some of these rare packs and pull out a 29K Charizard card, which is hiding at some random GameStop. Could be the random GameStop near you. Now, Power Packs obviously had their beta in October. We've kind of had conversations about this. This is the kind of the digital sort of vending machine where they have like a chase cards inside these digital packs, and you can put in money at a certain price point and have the chance to win, the grand prize. We've been talking about this for months now, but it stands to reason that this week was their very first official launch. And it kind of came out to, maybe not as much fanfare, but Rob, I kind of want to kick it over to you with this one. Like, what's been kind of the conversations with the GameStop Power Packs, like in the card world? Like, are people kind of like, yeah, whatever, same old, or is there anything interesting about the official launch of these things coming out this week?
Pretty much same old. I think this has had more of a direct impact in the Pokemon space than in the sports card space. Just because, like what you've talked about, there's a lot of Pokemon creators going really hard on this stuff, and it's honestly like they're the third or fourth person, maybe even fifth person to do it. So it's like not like it's normalized by now, as crazy as that sounds. Like Arena Club's been doing it forever. Courtyard IO has been doing it forever. Some individual breakers like Blez, like some of the bigger breakers, are actually now have the money and funding to be able to spin up their own digital repacks on their own. So it really hasn't been, and this has been in beta for almost a year now, so it's not like it's brand new to market. So I think it's normalized, as scary as that sounds.
I've got a different take on this one though, because I think the Power Packs, the GameStop one, is very different from the other platforms, and it's because of how it is integrated with PSA and with eBay. Because one of the big things with the Power Pack, because I got deep into one of these like YouTube channels that was like, basically they were doing, we talked about it before, like they were doing effectively like gambling on their channel, where they'd have teams like competing against each other and like pulling cards, and people would pay in ahead of time, and whoever won at the end that had like the most valuable card after each round got all the cards, or things like that. And but the way it's integrated is, when you pull a card, you can either sell it back to them, or you can list it on eBay immediately through the GameStop app. And that is, to me, that is a huge difference from the other ones, because the other ones, it's like, oh, you've got to pay to have them ship it to you, and you have those additional costs and things that go in there with it. But this, you don't. It's immediately in their vault, and you can put it up on eBay. You can sell it. They have, the same reasonable, like it's like eBay fees or whatever. And I think it's like a $3 listing fee, which makes it not as good of a proposition for the lower dollar packs, but for like the mid and upper dollar packs, I feel like it is just a much better option than the others because of how that's integrated. But that's my take. Like it's made me even tempted to be like, maybe it'll be fun to kind of like just like try to pull some, and then if I don't like them, you just throw them up on eBay, even if I don't like the like the buyback offer that is given by GameStop. So I don't know. I think that integration is a big like differentiator for that product.
So you're all in when the comic book ones come.
I don't see, but that's the problem. Is there if they've got to be PSA comics? I don't know. Sorry.
Well, let's double click on this, because Rob, this has been the thing that you've been kind of hammering on about for the long time. Like the Voltron formation of like the full flywheel integration of PSA, eBay, GameStop. Michael Burry, is going all in on this. We talked about his whole thing earlier this year when he is a big believer in what GameStop is doing, in large part because of this. And yeah, it is a bigger deal. Like GameStop is a bigger company. They're on the stock exchange. Like I feel like this could be a huge game changer like this in the collectible market, for years on, because of the fact, like Ryan already said, there's all these integrations, and Rob, you've been kind of talking about this for a long time. I mean, are you just like so in it that you are sort of like, yeah, saw this coming, it's going to happen, whatever?
Or maybe that's the case. And one key thing to keep in mind is that I know we've discussed this before. Power Packs is not technically it is its own company. It is not technically part of GameStop. It is its own LLC, separate from PSA and separate from GameStop. So actually talked about this in my video today. I'll be curious to see how that revenue is reported on their, because they are a publicly traded company. I assume it's just going to like go into the collectible bucket, and you won't really be able to see exactly how much they're making specifically off of Power Packs, because they like a large focus of their business is collectibles now. So if they see a big spike in collectible revenue, it's kind of like, duh, all collectibles are going to the moon right now. But I think that's just one key thing to kind of keep in mind when you're talking about this stuff, is that it is its own little thing off to the side. So if regulation ever came, it would be, I don't know how all that would work.
But it's only a matter of time before this comes to comic books, right? Like, I mean, I said it in my video. I was like,
well, I mean, Courtyard's dabbled in it.
Yeah, but also like, GameStop.
Well, you're talking like Power Pack specific.
Yeah,
100%. At some point in time, I would imagine it's coming. I would be curious if they would still. It would be PSA only, like to Ryan.
Because the GameStop ones are PSA, like the cards are all PSA only.
Which and it specifically says Power Packs are PSA only.
And for cards, that's actually the big selling point to me. It's like with the other ones, I'm like, I don't want to randomly get a CGC card or something, and they claim it's the PSA value,
The
and
problem
like, I just got shafted.
There's not enough PSA comics graded for inventory. Like you have to have a lot of inventory to be able to support something like this. Maybe you could do like a beta limited run and just kind of see how it goes. But that's part of the problem, is I don't know that there's enough PSA graded books to support it.
But here's the interesting thing, Rob. I mean, I wonder if this is going to be a huge steroid for them, because of the fact that, like, if this is a PSA only integrated slabs, and sure, like maybe you won't get the same amount of money selling these things usually on the secondary market. But like, if there's a system where I could get books graded at PSA and like sell them to GameStop, and they're going to buy because they just want to buy up all this product and inventory, so they can do their Power Pack thing. Like maybe there's value there for a lot of retailers and dealers and sellers. Like, and I'm thinking that these things will be very successful. Take like a book like earlier in the show, we talked about the Dan Quintana Absolute Batman 19 thing. Like imagine, they just do sketch covers or, Absolute Batman things or dork things. Like I could see those types of comics being popular with that type of audience that would be interested in these types of Power Pack rip things. But I don't know. I think that this could be a big boon for PSA graded comic books.
I don't disagree. That's where, like, for me, like, as strange as that sounds, given I'm largely a comic collector, I would be more interested in the card side than the comic side, just because I don't want PSA comics. books. So yeah, I don't know. That's me.
What if you could get all of your Absolute Batmans sold to GameStop instantly? Even if you're leaving money on the table, it's just straight like, oh, all you got to do is drop it off at GameStop and you get, whatever the secondary market value is right now. Like, how convenient.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, it definitely, like if they started that, like how they have that immediate buyback, like you get the option for 2 days or whatever it is, where they give you an offer for things, like I could see that being a potential driver for maybe more like bigger submitters to start sending books into PSA so they could get like instant cash flow out of it.
Wow, that's really interesting. So if a power pack fueled by PSA comics happens, which sounds like from what you guys are saying, you guys are anticipating that it happens, and this whole the like from a collector acquiring the raw book to getting paid for it once grading it, if it all happens really streamlined, then yes, it obviously is going to incentivize a bunch of garbage being graded. But the mystery pack companies need garbage, and they need a little bit of good stuff in there too. And people are fine receiving garbage because they know that they're gambling. And so you could always just spend $30 to grade garbage and then sell it for like 30. Like, what if you had a built-in margin of 10 or 12% no matter what? Why would you not spend $1 million on crap and get $1.3 million back?
I mean, the challenge is that, like, at least with the card side, they don't offer to buy everything. So you don't have some guarantee that that something is going to be purchased. But
But let's take a scenario where you have a hot title like Absolute Batman, and every single issue release of Absolute Batman, there are big retailers out there that have big accounts with CGC that are like doing, hey, we're going to just send in 100 copies, instantly grade them with CGC, and then we're going to sell it to our customer base or whatever the case is, But if you know that you're a retailer and let's say you strike some understanding with PSA where they're going to do like Absolute Batman packs, then it's like, cool, I'll just buy 100 of the new issue. I'll get all the variants. I'll get all the 1 in 200s, the 1 in 20s, whatever. I'll just send them to PSA because I just know that that PSA/GameStop knows that they can do a Absolute Batman launch or whatever it is, like big titles. Like, I think that could be a way for them to get some of these bigger accounts because those retailers, when they send all those books in, they're still selling them individually to like their various customers and things of that nature. But if you're a big retailer who could be like one click of a button, just sell it to GameStop, and they just know that it's big enough title. I don't know. I could just see that that's where it ends up going.
How's the have you paid attention to the Courtyard ones at all, Swags? How have those been doing? Like, or anyone doing like degen content, like ripping those things? Or
I haven't heard anyone talking about Courtyard other than
but the higher dollar ones have been selling out though. I think the $200 or $500 ones. Like, I went and looked, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and there were certain ones that were sold out. Now I don't know how long they've been sold out, or if they're having trouble like getting inventory or what, but there definitely still seems to be interest given that.
Yeah, I don't know how big those runs are when they put those together. I'm sure they're a little bit smaller compared to like a card one that they know they're going to like just basically print money on.
Yeah, I think that there's probably still a little bit of interest in the comic stuff. I do know that they came out after their initial launch. They dropped another comic related launch, and then maybe there was some interest. And I do believe that they may have done some kind of partnership with Comics Elite or something. So it seems like they are sourcing a lot of the bigger dealers for inventory, which I guess, implies that they're selling, they need the inventory. So, it seems like it's doing pretty well, but I would imagine, of course, that the cards are doing better.
Hey, Automatic, what's a Mike Baker sticker? Is that like the sticker that says this presents exceptionally well for its grade, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a card thing.
Oh, it's a card thing?
Yeah, I don't know what a Mike Baker sticker is, so.
Okay, and so someone in chat says, then thank you for the question, says, is there a Mike Baker sticker equivalent for PSA graded comic books yet? I haven't seen anything of the sort.
Not for comics, but there are those stickers. There's the
CVS,
the CVA, I think it's CVA and EGS.
Oh yeah, CVA.
Yeah, and because CVA is the Comic Link one, and then EGS or X or whatever is the Comic Connect one.
But
And I would imagine
yeah.
that those can go on PSA Slab in theory, right?
Why not?
I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they
Yeah,
probably
all you're
sell it.
saying is that this looks better than what it actually is, or it's
Yeah.
an outstanding version.
Presents
of
well for
the-
the grade,
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Well, interesting stuff with gambling and all these things and MSRP being dead. I feel like is it officially dead? And it feels like, yeah, like people are going to continue to go onto the secondary market and more. But let's kind of move on now to our next topic here, which is still within the wheelhouse of Topps. Rob, you were at the Topps conference, and one of the things that you mentioned here in your tweet was that Marvel card thing coming soon on an original art set, redemption for the actual OA of the card. So I guess Topps is coming out with their official first kind of Marvel trading card set. Manu got really, really excited. He's ready to drop tens of thousands of dollars on it, in order to get sealed product. You had one picture you shared with us that had a Black Panther on it. So there's kind of presumably the card right here. But what did you kind of make of what this product is and what's kind of this OA redemption? Catch us up to speed here.
The details are sparse, to say the least. It is called Illustrious. That's all that we know. And then we know who the primary artist is. And to be upfront, Topps has done a bunch of Marvel releases already. Basically, none of them have had much, if any, original artwork in it. It's essentially been like screen use stuff from MCU stuff or images from comic books or whatever. But this is their first. I mean, I think they said something like a higher end. So this gives me, I guess, maybe they're going for their first run at like a Masterpieces vibes. I don't want to say that for sure. We know very little about this. So, but one of the things that they teased was that there'll be redemptions in the product that you could send in to get the actual original art of a particular card. Which has been done
know
before.
how big
Ando Santos did that with Marvel Masterpieces, I know, and I think Manu, that's not even the first time that's been done, right?
No, but that's something that, remember I said I want to tell a little story about a redemption. It has to do directly with Dan Dos Santos' set and some nonsense that Upper Deck did. But if we get to that, I'll tell the story. But it hasn't been the first time, no. In fact, 1996 Marvel Masterpieces has a very rare redemption for some of the Julie Bell and Boris Vallejo paintings. We just don't remember that because we were 7 years old collecting it. But it is notorious that people don't know where those paintings were, how many got redeemed, so on and so forth. But that might have actually been the first time, and those paintings are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Do we know how big the original art is? Is it like normal card art that's like pretty small, or is it?
This was literally like a 30-second, like a 60-second teaser of something that probably won't even be out this year, maybe next year.
So let me ask this and just kind of clarify, and Manu or Rob, you can kind of take this one, just so I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Upper Deck for the longest time had the Marvel trading card license. They were the ones doing all these sets, Marvel Masterpieces, things of that nature. I think it was around 2022 or 23, something like that, where they lost the set or Topps took it over.
Last year.
Yeah, okay, transition last year. And so this is the first kind of new Marvel trading card, like really true official Marvel trading card set that has come out in X number of years, or would be the first.
No, they've done plenty of Marvel sets. They just haven't done any OA sets.
Sorry, what I mean is OA, like meaning like, hey, we're going to do like real trading card art for.
Whereas Upper Deck was doing that on the regular. Not every Upper Deck release was OA, but many more of them were OA than non-OA.
Yeah. The Upper Deck had been they reprinted some of the Just Go stuff. I remember that was kind of like their last run. So I guess, Manu, from a Marvel trading card perspective, like where that market is at, like, is this going to be a huge set? Like, do I need to buy some boxes here? What do I, get me up to speed. How do I make money like all these gambling guys out there?
We know we know very little, right? And from what I just gathered, that it might be an original art set. It might be dedicated majority to one artist, which is in the vein of what Masterpieces used to do. But in Masterpieces sets, most of the Upper Deck has a brand called Marvel Masterpieces. It didn't cross over to Topps because that wasn't a Marvel thing. That was owned by Upper Deck. In any case, Most of the Marvel Masterpieces sets historically have been one artist. 1996 Marvel Masterpieces, in that case, it was two artists, husband and wife, Julie Bell, Boris Vallejo. 1994 Masterpieces was the Hildebrandt brothers, two artists, but they're brothers. And some sets like 95 Masterpieces were a bunch of artists put together, but it didn't go on to be one of the more legendary, more remembered sets. But for nostalgia purposes, we all do love it. So I think from what I've been following, very little about Topps releases, they have been just like reused comic book art, which isn't anything wrong with it. But a lot of times, inserts will have same images as base cards. Some cards will have the same images that Upper Deck use, and it all feels so lazy and kind of, uninspired. So I think a lot of Marvel card collectors are really dying for an original art set. So I think it's going to be, I think it being a big hit is a foregone conclusion. I think it absolutely will be. This idea of having the OA redeemed. Now, I don't know, like, is every OA from the set a redeemable thing, or are they picking a few to make that the redeemable chase? Like, that would be really great to find out. That would be awesome. And so anyway, short and well, so long for that. But yes, it's going to be a big hit because we want it. We want an original art set from Topps to come out. We want Topps to think about Marvel in a more prideful way. And a more prideful way to do that would be to dedicate a year of an artist's life to paint all of these beautiful images. And I don't even know if they're paintings. Is that artist paint? Is this digital? Oh, no.
I
Sorry.
linked
If
the
there's
artist.
OA, they're probably
They
paintings,
announced the artist.
right?
I don't remember who it is off the top of my head. They said the artist on the stage. So if you have the DM, you could. I don't know the artist because that's not my world.
Yeah. So that's cool. See, that's that modern side of modern Marvel, where there's numbered cards and there's all these, manufactured sort of rarities. But everyone wants the original art for a card that they love. So that chase is going to fuel this. And actually, this is a bit of an aside, but with some of the Upper Deck products, one of the things that a lot of people didn't like, a lot of people felt left out, was if you didn't know the artist, or if you didn't have some secret advanced knowledge, you didn't know who to contact, who to make arrangements with to get your hands on some of the original art. And there's a very small circle of people that knew how to navigate some of those relationships. So a Dan Dos Santos or whomever did whatever modern masterpiece is set, that art generally spoken for by like 5 to 10 people. No one had a shot at it. And the only way they would have a shot at it is if it went to auction and sold for 20,000, 10,000, 50,000. I actually sold one of the Dan Dos Santos 2000, was it 2024, 2022 masterpiece? Doesn't matter. Modern masterpiece set. I actually sold one of the original Dan Dos Santos paintings, right? And it was a 5-figure painting. And so, but the way that his art was distributed at first was this private invite-only event, not handled by Upper Deck, handled by Dan Dos Santos and a member of the Marvel card community who communicated that to some of the people that he was really close with, and they were the only people that had access to go buy this stuff, and they created the secondary market. So the consumer base, the general collector, felt shafted, felt like that was not friendly, right? And so this, if it is all just a chase card and redeemable, kind of opens it up so that your collector at home that's just opening hobby boxes has a shot at it. And I quite like that, actually. And I hope they handle it really well. And if I may go on for a moment more, I do want to jump into that Upper Deck story. And that Upper Deck story is a fun one. And I don't know if the people that I'm about to talk to, anyway. Upper Deck did the Dan Dos Santos set, and they asked him specifically for a few pieces of art because he did have the right to sell all of his art. Artists don't get paid very well for that year of time they're dedicating to creating all of these paintings. And Dan Dos Santos does really great work, and they're large format paintings, so it takes a lot of time and effort. And so the way that they're going to reap the reward is by selling the original stuff, right? And Upper Deck wanted a few of them. In fact, they wanted, I think, 2 of them. And I think there was a negotiation, but they wanted one of the Spidey cards that was used on one of the inserts, and it's one of the most beautiful Spider-Man portraits ever. I think it's 2022 Marvel Masterpieces, Dan Dos Santos from the gallery insert set, the Spider-Man portrait. They asked for that, and they asked for a Thor card. And those 2 were the redemption chases, like the most sought after chase from that card set. And it was an expensive product. Sealed product was expensive. And I think the cards were tiered, where some of the characters were they weren't numbered, but they were known to be harder to hit. So those cards are really expensive. and the art associated with as well. Anyway, Upper Deck, I've always criticized them for like just pretending to care but not actually caring. But that's kind of like every company that sells to collectors, right? Like they're positioning themselves like a friend to the collecting community, but all they want is for you to pay for something. It's business. And so they had these 2 redemptions, and they said that no one knows what the redemptions are. That Dan Dos Santos sent them the paintings themselves, sealed, and they don't know which ones are in their storage or in their office. And I called BS on that from the very beginning. And then someone that I know, now we're friends, but at that time we were just acquainted, actually pulled the redemption, right? One of the redemptions. And it was supposed to be some weird thing happened where it was supposed to be random. And then he got sent the Thor painting. Obviously, he was really hoping for the Spidey painting. And he got sent the Thor painting. And the way that it was sent, because this is still an expensive piece, was disgusting. So the painting itself had a white piece of paper on it so that, someone in the office shouldn't know what it was, but it wasn't folded shut, sealed shut. You just lift it and see the painting. You could totally decide what you're sending someone. And they put that into a regular flat mailer. And they put that in the mail. I mean, this thing's worth $15,000, $25,000, depending on what it was at the height. And they mailed Dan Dos Santos original art in that way. And Dan Dos Santos was even offended by it. There was a live stream that it was brought to his attention. He was like, what? That's how they sent you that? Like, I instructed them how to send this thing. And then it got even more interesting because then somebody pulled. See, it actually, the reason that they said that the Thor was pulled is because they have this thing called e-pack, where a lot of the packs were sold digitally. And if the Spider-Man painting was already pulled in the main product release, the physical product, that would not incentivize as many people if they knew that they couldn't hit the Spidey painting. So they were, encouraged. Oh, we did lose Swag.
We just keep going. I'm sure he'll be back.
Our stream still goes? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Swag, love you when you play this back. We'll see you in a bit. And so there he is. Okay, he's in here. Okay, fantastic. So anyway, friend pulls the Thor painting. I'll wrap this up, right? Whatever. They ship him the Thor painting, and I thought that's complete nonsense. There's no way that it's random that he got the Thor. They purposely gave him the Thor to keep the Spider-Man alive because e-pack needs to sell out. The digital release of the product still needs to sell out. That chase needs to be alive. And then some weird thing happened that someone hit the redemption, and the redemption card or the redemption something that came with it actually said the word Thor on it. Okay? And people in the community saw this and they're like, wait a second. I hit the first redemption and I got the Thor, but the second redemption had something implying that it was the Thor painting. So they intentionally sent me the Thor, and he wrote an email or called Upper Deck, and guess what they did? They corrected it and they said, you're right. And a year later, actually sent him the Spidey painting, which was
it also in an envelope with a
also in a damn envelope, bro. Ridiculous.
Oh, it actually was. They actually did send it.
Was. Yeah. They actually did, and they actually said, you're right, we sent you the wrong one. Bullshit. If no one called you out on it, you wouldn't have corrected anything. But the guy did correctly pull the Spider-Man one, which is the grail from the set, and now he has it. And the Thor has gone on to whomever pulled that second redemption. My story, albeit I didn't tell it as well as I would have liked to, is to illustrate the fact that the companies lie through their teeth about what their controls are and what they're doing, and it's very obvious. So what it obviously feels like is literally generally what it is. And everyone got left with a bad taste in their mouth from that one, including the artist himself, because the company showed no respect for the work. That's it. That's all I got.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, I feel like Topps hopefully will not do that with this one. And,
I hope not.
Run this thing a little bit better. And I will actually just quickly add, you guys were asking earlier who the artist for this thing is. This is the one for this particular set, Felipe Masafera. And just wanted to point out, I was looking at some of his work. Seems like he does paintings right here, full color. So I would assume that the art is going to be similar in that sense.
That looks very Marvel masterpiece-y to me.
Yeah. Full.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be, I mean, I think the community is really going to, this stuff is going to sell. And it's just, it's going to be one of those things. And then everyone's going to complain about the prices and then whatnot. People are going to yell about all kinds of nonsense. It's not worth yelling about. It's the whole same thing, always.
Can I ask, Rob, based on how Topps has been doing some of their products, like, would you guess, like, are these going to be like numbered cards? Do you think that they're going to
Oh,
do
will
like
100%
chases?
be
Like,
some
how
form of
would you,
numbered hits in these. In
okay,
this.
how would you guess that they would do it? I guess because I think back to like Upper Deck would do like what the precious metal gem style, and then
I mean,
their inserts and everything.
there'll be parallels of all the base cards. There'll be inserts. They'll do the full gambit on this.
Right, right. Well, Marvel cards are exploding, Manu.
Yeah,
And
Donruss is still doing fine. It is a little lower than it was when we talked about it, but that's what we said. But Marvel cards are kind of exciting right now. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, move on to our next story, which is not really a good transition on my end, but guys, eBay is
Mm.
switching it up. They're now here to be protecting sellers for once in their life. They're
Lies.
taking team seller here. They recently announced that they are changing their auction integration, where essentially, if you are somebody who bids on an item and cancels, if you're the winner, you cancel your win. Previously, you were able to do that. Now, supposedly, you're going to no longer be able to do that. Guys, eBay story. What do you think about this? I mean, all you guys are eBay users, so I don't know. You think this is going to be a big change?
I mean, it adds one little bit of, I would say, I guess, like inconvenience to the buyer to canceling something. So maybe it takes care of like a small percentage of cancellations. My issue is that if somebody wins something and they don't want it, they're still going to message you afterwards and say, "Hey, I actually don't want this thing." And there's no way you're going to ship that item out, because if you do, you're going to have to pay to have it shipped back to you, because they're going to lie and say it was not as described or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
And you're going to get screwed either way. So like, to me, it's all lip service. Like I don't see how that really changes much, other than just like this one little bit of like, it's like somebody that maybe they were going to cancel on you and they're like, oh, now it's kind of a little more of a hassle. But I feel like most people, like, if they're going to cancel, they're still going to message you and cancel.
Ryan, would you say that some change is better than no change though? Like,
I mean, obviously it's better. It's the same as like the change. Like, one of the changes I think was a big plus that they made. And now there's still people have ways to get around it by putting in like credit cards that have really low limits or this kind of thing. But the basically auto charging people immediately when they win or when they accept an offer or those kinds of things, that to me was a great change, because there were so many times you'd have people win something and then like you'd have to either like message them for a while because you have to give them at least 3 days to pay and all this kind of garbage. And so your item stays off the site for that amount of time. And then eventually they never pay. And then you got to relist it and this stuff. So, I mean, I think those were positives. Like, that was definitely a big positive. This one, like I said, I mean, it's better than nothing, but I feel like the impact is going to be pretty minimal.
One thing that's different in cards versus comics is with cards, if it's over $250, it goes through eBay authenticity guarantee, and that would cause a lot of problems for someone trying to return, saying it wasn't as described. In comics, you can still get away with that, but in cards with eBay AG, it makes it, you could still do it, but it's way harder and way more hoops to jump through. So to your point of not wanting to ship it because you're concerned, if it was something going through eBay AG, I would feel a little more confident.
A lot more confident, bro. A lot more, because if you know your product's real, eBay is going to take the return. It's not going to come back to you. eBay, if your product passes AG, eBay's not going to come collect money from you.
I've seen some circumstances where people have found workarounds for that, but they are few and far between.
Really? Okay. That I'm very, and the thing is, like you said here, it only applies to cards. But yeah, when I ship something that's going through AG, I am far more confident, right? Like, if the buyer has some sort of change of heart, they're going to take that up with eBay, and eBay can decide what to do, because my obligation is to get it past authentication. And that's where my obligation ends. I get paid once it's authenticated, not once it gets to wherever it's got to go after that. So I operate with more confidence there, but I am curious about some of the scenarios that you might be aware of where the buyer who has done everything right has ended up having to refund money. I would be curious to know what some of those pitfalls might be. I'm not familiar with them.
I've always been surprised that they haven't figured out a way to roll this out for comics to some degree over a certain price point.
They're thinking about it. They're gonna do it at some point, I think. Yeah. It's definitely gonna come into more categories because it's not only in cards, it's
No,
in
it's not. It's
luxury
in
goods
watches,
as well.
it's in
Yeah.
handbags, it's in shoes.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. For sure.
Yeah, I wonder if it's. You always wonder if like part of it is depending on the
It is the
size of
small,
items.
exactly.
Yeah, the size of items because shipping becomes more expensive, and like when somebody, at least like the few cards that I've sold, like the only shipping that I paid was the shipping to the shipping to the eBay authenticator.
Mhm.
And so like they're like, okay, we're gonna pass it on to the buyer now, and they either they eat that cost or whatever. And so with comics, like that could be another 15-20 bucks per item. And so whereas cards, it could be like $4 or $3. So maybe they don't want to eat that, that cost.
Yeah, I think it would have to be on like expensive where they're making enough money on the eBay fee that they don't care.
Yeah, and I didn't know you were talking about the physical size. When I was agreeing with you, I thought you were talking about the size of the market because comic books happens to be a very small market compared to.
No, I'm talking about the actual size of
Right,
the item itself.
I got you. Yeah, could be part of the factor, but I mean, it could be part of it. But they do see the comic book market as growing as well, so that's really good, and they're thinking about things.
I mean, because there are big comics that sell on eBay. I mean,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
like every like monthly, like at least like when I used to do those price comparisons between like CGC, CBCS, and PSA, like CGC comics would consistently sell books that were 10, 20, 30, 40 grand on eBay, and that's just going out into the ether, So,
Yeah. Hey, Swag, really quick. Again, I want to do whenever you're at the end, just punch me in for a little bit of random shit that I want to talk about that I have to report on, if you will.
I feel like we need to, what we need to do? We need to do like Manu's Minute or some kind. We need to catch
That
your name
works.
at the end of the show
That
for
works.
like some secret topic that Manu's going to bring up. So yeah, everyone can look forward to that.
Who wants to sponsor Manu's Minute?
Yeah, we need a show sponsor for Manu's Minute.
That'd be cool. But then my whole minute would go to whoever fucking bought it.
That sounds like a good sponsorship opportunity for like erectile dysfunction pill.
Damn, that's hilarious, bro.
Dude, actually, a little bit of sidebar. I would love to shill Blue Chew on
Get him in
the
here.
Swaggle YouTube channel.
Manu's Minute sponsored by Blue Chew. I think, yeah.
Stop it. No, let that be Swag's thing. Let that be Swag's thing. I'll find someone else,
No. Because that would mean you would have to go. The whole shtick would be you have to go longer than a minute.
Yeah.
He said longer.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
He said longer.
That's really good.
That's good.
Yeah, no, that's
where your head was at.
Yeah.
Oh, this is all kind of innuendo here. Oh my god.
No. You have to
Manu's
last
Minute.
longer than a minute.
Fucking A.
Blue Chew's gonna help Manu's Minute maybe last to 3 minutes.
There's the ad. Run it again. Clip this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to use that to pitch. That's our pitch deck right there.
Yeah. And then, we'll give like tips about how to hunt, and it'll be called Just a Tip, not just but you say it fast. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be a difficult transition to go into manga, but I'm going to do it anyways. We had this post that at this point came out a little while ago, but I thought that this was interesting because, we in our last show talked about some of the crazy sales with manga. And then I decided to kind of put together, with you guys a little bit of this Instagram posts that just kind of highlighted the big differences in the manga price jumps. And Rob, you weren't here for this conversation, but what was interesting about this post is that, for me on my Instagram, it went very viral. And there was a lot of people talking about this within the space. All the manga defenders were, coming out and saying, oh, just you wait, you guys don't understand manga to the moon. And then there was all the manga haters, and there's tons of manga haters that were like, this thing's going to crash. It's going to zero. Guys, I don't know. Did you have any little comments on this? I just thought the comment section in and of itself was very entertaining, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, my take is still the same. Like, I think that there is a market for it, but I think it is priced into the future right now. And, it's probably going to come, like maybe it gets there in 10 years or something, but like I think my line in my video when I talked about this was there are people that are going to make a lot of money from this, manga boom, but if you're buying right now, it's not you. Like that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. I don't know. Rob, you got any thoughts on manga? You want to go all in on that? Buy original One Piece instead of those One Piece trading cards that are going to zero?
I mean, One Piece is legit super popular, but I feel like buying at the peak of the FOMO is not the appropriate time to be pulling the trigger on this stuff. But maybe we're just in the first inning. You never know.
Fair enough. You know, it is going to $1 million, and I'm going to benefit from it because I shill it all the time. Our arcade flyers, guys.
Let's go.
I don't know if you guys.
Oh yeah, I've
saw
heard.
my-
I've gotten DMs about
how dare you?
How dare I? Here's the thing. Little hot tip to everyone in the chat. Okay, if you're into something, never say anything because everyone will hate on you for it. That's what I've learned.
Get Quintana to sign it. $1 start that thing.
Yeah. Anyways, well, I thought that this was pretty cool. I mean, I'm trying to make it a real topic, but guys, I mean, the Street Fighter trailer came out. That was a big story. The Mario movie that had a massive box office, even though the reviews weren't as good for it. Recently, it was announced that, the Mario universe might be coming. They might be the next MCU, to be coming out here. But on top of that, we had Joe Russo, famously the director of the Avengers films. He made a statement about Avengers Endgame. The re-release is going to include footage that ties into the narrative of Avengers Doomsday. It's an opportunity to create a bridge from Endgame to Doomsday. Guys, movies are back, man. Doomsday's coming out. Super Mario's doing well. That's my movie segment.
I mean, do we know, is that going to be on just like Disney Plus? I want to know, like, do I have to buy something to watch this re-release? And it's going to be like a 30-second clip with like Doom in it, or am I going to? I'm hoping I can just like use my existing Disney Plus subscription to watch this.
It gets worse, Ryan. You're going to have to go to the theaters to watch Endgame again.
Oh God!
Can we go back to?
That's even more expensive. That's like $70 around here.
Yeah, yes.
Oh,
all right. Well, I'm roping in all these topics. Manu, you want to talk about Blip?
Yeah, I want to say.
I want to talk more about this too. I want to talk more about this.
I want to say the things here that I said to you in private. And Rob says, stop trying to take down prices of my Blip number ones. Look, I like Blip, right? But I
do
think,
too.
yeah, but I think Swag is on to something because like I feel like that video. Listen, it's not that people don't know about that flyer. It's just that it's not widespread knowledge. It's not that people don't know about this and that. Like the high grade copies of those magazines that Swag showed are extremely expensive or listed for high prices because people do appreciate what the value proposition or the significance there is. But
that's only because he already bought them all.
Yeah.
And now everybody is increasing the price.
Right.
I bought all one of them.
But exactly, right. But like Blip, everyone talks about Blip. Blip is cool. I don't think Blip goes to zero. Blip is cool, and Blip in a newsstand is difficult and high grade. I believe there's a CPV that's probably extremely. Is there? There might be. That's probably extreme. There's fun to be had there. Nintendo Power number one. Not only is that in respect to Mario being on the cover as well, but it's the first Nintendo Power. It's its own nostalgia vehicle. So there's always going to be value there. That yellow comic book with Mario on it that's called Nintendo something. I forgot what it's called.
Systems.
And Nintendo
Yeah,
Systems.
Nintendo Comic Systems.
That thing is awesome. It's always going to be, but it has another key significance. It's the first book, and correct me if I'm wrong, that sports the Valiant logo on the front. And then Swag educated me that it's the first appearance of who? Link? What?
Link in comics.
Link in comics, right? So there's significance there. But like, I feel like this video puts out information for people that didn't have it before, and it's going to be historically significant. The video in itself, I think there's an education in this video, and I agree with what makes these items cool. Like a flyer that calls Mario for the first time ever, that's pretty cool, right? Or the Japanese version of the flyer that I believe you said in the video is the same exact artwork as the actual arcade game machine, right?
It is, yeah.
It all started there. That's very freaking cool. So I'm with you on this, bro. Like, I think you're onto something here. I like this kind of thing.
I think they're kind of cool. They're kind of fun. I just was sharing it, but
Yeah,
here I
why
am
can't both
kinda,
go up? Exactly, Rob. They can.
well,
Exactly.
but what's cool about them too is like I think that the big difference is that you can grade them.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, again, we live in this world where like nobody reads comics anyways and nobody opens them and people just buy Absolute Batman 19s for Dan Quintana covers anyways. So it stands to reason, in my opinion, that once it's in a slab, if you're just looking at an image, like what's the difference? If it's like, hey, this is my first Ken and Ryu, but it's just
Yeah.
in a thing. But
No.
I don't know.
It's cool. And I heard you say that there's some things that you haven't talked about yet, so I'm waiting for that video to come out, right? Like I like my secrets. Secrets are fun. It's part of this whole thing, It's cool.
It's fun. It makes it fun.
I'm
But there's no
looking
fun
forward.
in
I'm looking forward to the Street Fighter movie. I wasn't at first, but now I'm getting more interested in how I think it's going to be like bad good. That's what I'm expecting for the Street Fighter movie. It's like it's going to be bad good. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, we'll definitely see.
That
I
should
hope
be
it's
fun.
Avengers Doomsday is good, because
Yeah,
I would certainly like that movie to be good.
Marvel needs it to be good. They really do. Like, but I've said this before. Like, when you have the directors that have proven themselves in the past, I trust that they will do a good job. Like all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are solid. Everything the Russo brothers have done, solid. There's certain people I trust. Like that they'll give us something that we're going to enjoy.
I'm a big truster of the filmmakers themselves. Like if they've proven that they can do Marvel movies right, I assume that they have the resources to do this right. I'm going to be hopeful.
Rob just asked a cool question. He said, anyone know if there's a PSA 10 of G.I. Joe 1 or 21 yet? I don't believe there is, but could you imagine the silent issue in a PSA 10? That'd be crazy. I don't know, though. I haven't seen it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be nuts.
Well, let me give a quick actual shout out here to friend of the channel, Circumstances, for the 5 gifted subs. Really appreciate that.
Work?
I don't know. I don't even know if my gifted subs are turned on.
That's the thing. I watched some Pokemon channels and they're like, "Oh, thanks for the gifted memberships," and I'm like, I have no idea how those work.
Yeah, we have a membership program.
Well, I know you have a membership program, but maybe I got to go grab one of those.
Yeah, Swile House has a membership program, guys. By the way, link in the description if you want to check it out. But yeah, I think it's like you donate. Does Circumstances donate 5 members, and then I think the idea is that 5 people randomly in the chat are selected, and they become a member. Well, no, it's just random. So like they become a member all of a sudden. So but either way, I really appreciate it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So shout out to Marcus. And go check out his YouTube channel. He was just at Planet Comic-Con in Kansas, and he interviewed Drew from Como Comic Books, friend of the channel, Como. So go check out his video about that.
Cool.
Well, speaking of Doomsday, Marvel trading card art, original art, we did have one very notable original art set that actually went up for sale. If I can get the banner to not move. We had the Death of Superman full issue, including the cover and the logo. This original art selling on Comic Connect results, as you can see from the flyer, $10.2 million for all of these things that sold collectively. The notable pieces, of course, are the Death of Superman cover, which I'm sure you guys have tons of memorabilia for. Everybody had this book. Everybody collected it. $1.874 million. Then there are a couple of the big splash pages. There was this triptych that has Lois Lane crying after the death of Superman. If you guys remember this page, this one sold for $828,000. There was this page right here where she's cradling Superman. This one sold for $797,000. And then, kind of most notably, we had the Death of Superman logo, which was the one that was on the printed black bag that sold for $552,000. Thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about some of these sales. Guys, do you have any reactions to these ones? Did it go for higher than you thought, lower than you thought? What do you think about this?
I mean, I just think it's interesting that one of the most worthless Superman books of all time, the art actually sells for over $10 million.
Isn't that the irony, though? Because it's like so many people know it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, I think we expected it to go for a lot because like you have so many people that know it like that there's a lot
Yeah.
of demand for that one of one type stuff. But it's still, I think that dichotomy is interesting.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't this because I was there, but I was doing my Spider-Man thing. I don't remember what was happening when this was actually happening. But if I'm not mistaken, this is during like the 90s boom, and this was a big push by DC to really milk everyone out there buying up things. And this was everyone's investment book, right? Like Spidey one was the thing, Spawn one was the thing. This was the Superman one, right? And obviously there's millions and millions of these things in circulation. So the only actual way to have the rare version or the investable thing is to have the original art. And that certainly panned out for the same reasons what you guys are saying is this is so notable. And that's what makes it, this is an interesting thing going back to like Marvel card art. Do I want to tie this in right now? Maybe just briefly. No, actually the hell with it. I want to stay on this for a second. I have a question about something, and maybe a question for our friends in the chat or whomever's watching this. I didn't follow this auction. It wasn't a passion thing of mine, and I knew that eventually I'd find out the numbers that the things did, and that'd be cool to know. So now we know, right? $10 million, a bunch of the stuff associated with one of the most memorable events in comic books, in one of the highest points in comic book collecting history, but the logo, the Superman logo, and this has been brought to my attention a few times now, the Superman logo that sold, the original, is not the exact version that's on the actual bag for the book, but it is actually printed in that same version, the same sort of drops, the details that were sold are printed on something else that was published later. But wasn't that listing sold or that item sold as if it were the one printed on the bag? And I'm not saying it isn't. Maybe something changed later before they printed it, but does anyone know why it's a different piece or that those details are different? Because that's very interesting to me. And so that I don't know anything about it, but that's a question I'd like to have answered. Why is the piece that sold not exactly the same as what's printed on the bag, but it was sold as the piece printed on the bag and sold for $500,000?
Yeah, there have been people that have talked about that, a little bit of discrepancies between this logo and the original published logo, or at least what appeared on the bag. But it's unclear if it's like, oh, well, is that just like part of the process, digital alterations, like how, who really knows? It says right here, this bloody version of Superman emblem, which became the symbol that embodied the entire concept of DC Death of Superman event, is still over 30 years later an image that instantly calls up that specific moment in time. The shield was famously used as the cover of the bagged memorial edition of Superman 75. So, this is presented as the original logo.
Right. So there's some backstory there that I would love to know. I don't know it. I would love to know, like, what happened between this being created, but a slightly altered version of this being printed on the bag that went on to be famous, but this exact version being printed on something less known. I would love to know. That's all.
Yeah.
Because
I'm guessing only a few people know or can answer that question, and they aren't on this group right here.
Are you not here, guys? Come on, original creators.
They could be in the chat. I don't know, but
yeah. So anyway, that's cool though. Congratulations to everybody that picked up a massive piece of 90s collecting history.
Pretty notable. I mean, Rob, you got any Death of Superman nostalgia? You buy it back in the day?
Marvel guy back then. Like, I mean, I remember when it happened. I remember buying the book just because I felt like I had to. But
sure, right.
I was in my peak Jim Lee Marvel era, and all that other stuff was coming out in the early 90s.
Yeah, I didn't buy this. I bought the Spider-Man stuff, but I didn't buy this, and I didn't buy Spawn.
Yeah. This is my X-Men, Wolverine, and Chasing Marvel Universe sets.
Yeah, I have so many of the X-Men ones sealed and the X-Force ones sealed. I was definitely more of a Marvel guy.
Yeah, I was all on board with that too. But it is interesting because, like, Manu, you asked that question, what the time was, but yeah, like you guys, I was Jim Lee X-Men. That was what was hot. It was Mark Bagley, Carnage, Spawn.
Dude.
All the Image launches, and I wasn't DC. Like, I didn't collect any DC. However, when this happened, I definitely bought this issue. And some of the subsequent, like, him coming back alive. I remember he had the white bag where he came back to life and all that stuff. And what's funny too is like if you go back and watch like some videos that came out at the time, like there's news stories about like, you know, how crazy that comic book was, and everybody, yeah, to your point, was buying it because it was going to be, you know, the thing that bought them their private island. And then there were like some like notable, God, I can't remember the name of it, but somebody in the chat's going to know, kind of like a comic book commentator who had like went on some rant talking about how like this is like, you know, such a DC just, you know, money grab, like Superman has actually died before. I wish I had this video. It's actually so funny. He's a very notable writer of that time. But you know, if that had come out in this day and age where we have social media, there'd be so many YouTubers just making fun of like the death of Superman if that was the big launch, you know, at that time. But you know, different world back then.
Has the Batman Broken Back OA ever sold?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know.
Or where does anyone even know if it exists? I guess maybe is the better question. Because I feel like that's like the other DC cover that I think of like that would rival this in terms of no. I mean, this one obviously sold more, but like if you're talking about like that era, like I wonder what that would go for, the Broken Back OA cover.
I think that one does exist. I feel like I've seen it before, like on a Comic Art Fans webpage or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if it's ever sold within any recent time. All those Jim Lee covers exist. I think that those would be the most expensive. I think those would be the most expensive things ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the like, at least on Heritage, that hasn't sold. And that's usually where like if it's maybe sold at some point in the past, but yeah, I don't see it there.
You know what sold on Heritage? Speaking of these things, dude, the X-Men Danger Room set that is like the Jim Lee set from the cards that sold in 2012 for like I think it was like 25K or something like that. I'm like, oh,
that's
dude,
pretty
this is
decent
like,
for 2012 though.
That seems like a lot for 2012.
Yeah,
I was shocked.
I thought you were going to say $2,500 or something.
Yeah, you know? I was waiting for like some $3,000 number to come
I mean, in 2012, that's when that McFarlane ASM 328 sold for like 600 grand.
That was a big number too. Yeah, that's
like
wild.
that was the biggest McFarlane number for until I think now. Like
okay, look, just for fun,
on that Danger Room set, that time period seems like a ton.
Yeah, but and I wonder if Tom Fish owns that too. No, I mean it's not part of the whole book thing because he owns everything related to the book, every cover, every pinup, like that kind of thing. That's amazing. But holy cow, I lost it. I don't remember now. Yeah, Jim Lee book. Oh no, so back in 2011, 2012, this is like a thing that's really, I'm passionate. I mean, a lot of people are. The Wizard 1 cover sold too for like $30-something thousand. Now, I'm not saying that's a $10 million thing now, but bro, 30 grand for the Wizard.
It might be $1 million cover.
I think it might be, man. It's such a cool McFarlane piece, and wow. Someone's got that and someone paid like 30K for it. I just think that's awesome. Yeah. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah. Well, we got to give a shout out to Hurton here with the $5. Thoughts on Shock number 24, Tales of Mystery and Suspense. Give me a second here. I got to actually pull those up. I didn't realize that you were going to have that. I want to give the panel an actual chance to weigh in on that one. But as I do that, maybe what the panel can weigh in on instead is how Absolute Batman, you know, starting to table off here, Ryan, you know, kind of finding some resistance at the $250 price point. Dork number 1, on the other hand, 30-day moving to 230. So pretty close, but maybe some pulling apart here.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm feeling more and more confident with my chances here. Now I know Manu has something planned. I feel like he's going to try to like spend $1,000 on a Dork 1, you know, on December 31st or something like that.
That'd be fun though.
No, I'm feeling pretty good about this right now. But I mean, I don't know if I trust that 250 is where it levels off. I think it could still go down more as long as the census keeps growing. But yeah, no, for now, it seems like it's been holding around the 250 line pretty well, even though the census is still going up. So we'll see.
Micah,
been,
that's not crazy. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, Huraton said he meant Spook 24, not Shock 24. He said, whoops.
Oh, shout out to Spook 24. Oh, okay.
And thank you for another super chat. And then I was just interrupting because Micah, hello Micah, says Spider-Man with the wizard hat for 1 million. Nah, that's crazy. I don't know if that's crazy, bro. Like that's a really remarkable McFarlane thing. 1 million might be a little high. If I was worth 75 million, I don't know if I would. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it if it ever comes to market. I'll definitely be bidding on it, and I'll definitely get outbid unless something really dramatic changes in my life between then and now.
Well, let's kind of give Hurton an answer here. He meant Spook 24. It's funny because I was trying to look it up and I was like, wait, I'm not finding this book. But then I finally found it when you corrected. Spook, Tales of Suspense and Mystery 24. I've never seen this book before. I'm looking to Ryan to weigh in on this one.
I mean, I'm not a huge like Mummy fan, so I know Como Comics. He likes the Mummy cover, so he'd probably be a little more into it. But for me, not the book that I'm hunting after. It is L.B. Cole, which is pretty cool. But yeah, not the book for me.
All right, what do you guys think aesthetically? You got thoughts on this one, Rob? You like a Mummy PCH book?
Not really my thing. It's a cool looking book, but.
But man, my only thought was like I feel like you're gambling over there by just like leaving the random Google images up. Like you never know what you're like on your screen with a Google image.
True. All right, we gotta navigate away right there. Navigate away right there. Wait,
Tales of Suspense?
Can we look at your Google image search history while we're up there? Like what's going on?
Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Although wait, did you hear it? Like I forget who it was. There's like some tech influencer said like, with the Claude leak, like we have like 1 year left until like everything in the cloud is like public.
Yeah,
did you guys hear about this?
No.
Delete your browsing history. Okay, it's all going public with AI soon. Manu, we have now that point of the show where we have to do Manu's Minute.
Oh, okay. Well, I if I knew it was going to be a titled segment, I would have brought something cooler to the table. One just has to do with something that I think is cool, and one is clearing up something from the last episode where we were talking about, and I wasn't familiar with it. It was just conversation that was happening. There was speculation or consideration for the thought that since CBCS is, closed for business, and PSA is obviously grading comic books, that they may combine that census or those populations, because people were saying that that's what they did in video games, right? WATA is now a PSA. PSA grades video games after having bought WATA, and the WATA brand is gone, but that population report shows up when you search in PSA's population report for games. But I did ask, and I was told that no, those censuses will not be combined. Sensei? I don't know. But they will not be combined.
Why?
I don't know.
Seems...
I would.
Why would they combine?
Seems like a mistake.
I don't even know why that would be like a question. Why you would think they would be combined? Like it's apples and oranges compared to the WATA situation.
Okay, yeah, apples and oranges to the WATA situation. But to me,
one of the points,
why wouldn't you?
PSA didn't grade the books.
But,
and that's how I look at it too.
But PSA owns CBCS. We bought you guys. Like we own you.
But that's part of Beckett, not part of PSA.
What they don't want to own, I'm speaking for myself based on the conversation I had, but I'm speaking for myself and assuming something. What they don't want to own is CBCS's grading. They're not promising you that a CBCS 9.8 is a PSA 9.8. If you submit a CBCS book, it's getting regraded. If it's a 9.4, it's a 9.4. If it's a 10, it's a 10. If it's a 9.6, it's a 9.6. If you put them in the same census, it is kind of taking the onus for what the job previously done was. That's what they're avoiding with that one. Part of it. They are not guaranteeing anything that's graded by CBCS. It all gets regraded by PSA if it comes through the door. And I think
the
that
census,
might be a thing.
But the census doesn't have to imply
it doesn't have to
standing by the grade.
But it's not a PSA graded book. I don't understand why it would be combined with a PSA census. They are two separate companies.
I don't know. I would have combined it because to me I think it gives it gives more value to the PSA brand for comics if you have a lot of the, because like right now, like people just, I mean, outside of a couple books, like people are not sending high dollar books to PSA.
Nonsense.
And so being able to put higher dollar books into their census, I think would mean a lot.
It's not their census.
I mean,
They didn't grade those books under their standards.
They own it though. You know,
but it's two different grading teams. It's two different grading standards. It's not the same thing at all. Beckett and PSA are two separate companies. They are not the same company.
Rob, the Cleveland Browns have won a Super Bowl. It was just done by the Baltimore Ravens.
The Browns did well. They won an NFL title game.
They still won Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns.
No,
I don't know. That was my push at my analogy of trying to make this work.
PSA is never going to degrade their brand by putting a lesser brand on their census or Pop Report or anything else.
You get CBCS's name out your mouth.
Yo, Philip just said
Don't you
something.
slander CBCS.
Philip just said something. Oh, sorry. Carry on. You guys are having. I like what I've delivered here.
I was just making. I'm just making jokes.
Jokes are good. Jokes are good. You know. Yeah. Philip says, and this is it. This is cool. He says, will PSA create a 9.9 column to incorporate the CBCS grades? Just an interesting thing, right? Because in this conversation, we forgot that there is not even a 9.9 column in PSA,
just go
right?
To 10. Obviously, they just go to 10.
They just go to 10. So that's
an upgrade.
That's a funny thought. I imagine that's not going to happen. Well, especially now that we are, or that I was told that they are staying separate. So no, there won't be a 9.9 column. I'd imagine. Why would there be?
Well,
all right. Next,
biggest loser of 2026 PSA for not combining the census. That's my new take right there.
Wow. Okay.
They would be losers if they combine the census.
Oh, man, I love
attacking CBCS.
Yeah.
All four of their fans are.
They didn't do it with
Messenger.
SCP.
Like fine here.
They didn't do it with Beckett when they bought Beckett. Plus, they're under regulatory scrutiny right now. The last thing they want to do, they want to keep those companies as separate as humanly possible.
Yeah, I suppose so. Really quick, someone corrected me in the chat. Harlan Ellison. He's got a great Death of Superman rant. You ever gonna want to dig up a clip? You ever go down a YouTube rabbit hole? Worth like a good 5-minute watch. And wanted to just kind of end the show.
No. I had not done. So I love you.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't know that you were taking Blue Chew over here and taking longer than a minute.
Yo, this has been a fun night. Shout out to our sponsor. No, the other thing was just fun because we spent a good amount of time here on the show collectively talking about the Malibu Sun. And I want to say something about that because the other day I was selling a couple sets of 1966 Donruss. This is a beautiful condition 34, by the way. Which a raw just sold for $3,000. About this condition raw. That's crazy. In any case, I was selling a couple sets. And Steve Aoki reached out to me and he goes, I have an interest in a set. And he had a bunch of questions. By the time his questions were answered, shout out Steve, thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate that. And by the time the questions were answered, someone else had already bought it. And it is what it is. But he told me when he was inquiring about the set, he goes, also, I bought the Malibu Sun. So I thought that's a fun update there. It ties in heritage as well because the book was sold on heritage. But Steve Aoki bought the Malibu Sun PSA 10, Malibu Sun 13 PSA 10, and that's kind of cool. So, wanted to put that out there. And then one other thing. So anyway, that kind of puts a bow on that. We know where the book went because I did not know where the book went, and I wanted to.
Shout out to Steve Aoki, friend of the channel. Should come on the show at some point.
I actually sold him the Jim Lee X-Men PSA 10 Wolverine hologram.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
wait,
there you go.
A pricey card.
Yeah.
Nice.
Pack pulled and graded that thing.
And you got a 10. What?
That's pretty good.
Dude, that's really phenomenal. I feel like I must have seen that. That must have been like 2 years ago, right? If that
was a long time ago, yeah.
Okay.
The funny part was to take it a step further. It was the box of X-Men that I opened on a live stream that I was originally supposed to open the box of 90 MU that I had Dungeons and Dragons cards in it. I still wanted to open something, so I reached behind me and grabbed a box of X-Men Jim Lee and opened that, and that's what it came out of.
Dude, congrats again.
You turned lemons into lemonade with that one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And for anyone, I mean, everyone here must know, but like what you were referencing there, and I talked over you and I apologize, was the 90 MU box that you had bought that you planned to open. You're making the video, you realized it was a fake box. In the pandemic, someone had stuffed it with other cards and resealed it.
Yes.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah. That was during the pandemic that I opened it.
Yeah.
With all this craziness in the collectible world, we haven't had a fake box incident.
We need a Logan Paul.
We need something like that.
Yeah. And one more thing, and then you guys can go enjoy your night.
Wow,
but
those pills are working overtime.
I think this is notable, though. I don't think
for like 15 minutes.
Listen, guys, look, you just keep going and going.
I think that this would be a short, but this is notable. I think this is cool. So shout out Bry's Comics. He's made content about it, made videos about it. People are aware, but he had a fantastic accomplishment. ASM 129 in 9.8 white pages, Mark Jewelers copy. And it's our friend Palm Beach Presser, Ron, that pressed that book. So shout out both of them because, I love rare Spidey Mark Jewelers. That's top of the heap when it comes to a lot of books. And he did go on to find out that it wasn't the only 9.8, but he also illustrated that the other Mark Jewelers 9.8 of 129 had reasons to not be preferred over this one should someone have the choice. And then he went on to price it rather reasonably, and I do believe it is sold. I haven't followed up. I imagine it's
they talked about it on an episode of Comic Tom. Sold it for 45 grand.
45K he priced it, and it is not a surprise to me that it's gone at that price. So congratulations on the accomplishment, Palm Beach Presser and Bry. That's one hell of a book, and congrats to who picked it up. That's all. That's all I got for the night.
Well, very good. Well, we appreciate Manu's Minute going longer than a minute. Shout out to Blue Chew, our sponsor, future sponsor. All right. Well, I thought we would end the show with me taking a victory lap about League of Legends Riftbound cards, guys. We're going to the moon. A Misfortune Champion Prize 1 of 1 just sold for $100,000. Guys, are we not Riftbound shills? Are we not Riftbound believers now? Is this trading card game not going to be the greatest trading card game ever?
I got one box.
Didn't you learn you are not allowed to talk about things that you like because now people are going to call you a shill?
You're right. You're right. You're right. I won't talk about it anymore.
I got one box of Riftbound behind me.
Yeah. Well, you can thank me. Like every time you take my advice on buying something, you lose money. So
they do.
It's true.
Avengers
all right, guys. Rip to Kang, who is now going to be Rip Kang. Rip Kang.
Oh my God.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for hanging out tonight
you,
in the chat. If you guys have not yet subbed up the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, link is in the description. Also, head on over to Spotify. Give us a 5-star review and also follow us. Like we're getting so many views over here, and then Spotify was like, "Yo, like your follower account is whack. Like you guys need to have more followers based on how many people listen to the show." So I really appreciate that. Also, shout out to Heritage Auctions, actual sponsor of the show tonight. Link in the description. Definitely check them out. And with that, guys, I don't know. MSRP is dead. So thank you all so much for hanging out. Thank you all for watching, and thank you to my co-hosts for joining me tonight. See you all in the next show. Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book bad? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.